Guys, tonight is going to be a smash. Mason, let's start with you. We got a trade up here. 12-team Superflex, PPR, 1.75 tight end premium, start 10. Are you going Justin Herbert or Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson? Go ahead, bud.
Oh, sorry. I'm pulling up the live stream on StreamYard. I got it on YouTube, so I'm just hearing 3 different echoes.
Oh, you're good. I know that.
Yep. Overall, I don't think it's the worst deal in the world. I mean, if you're going through, obviously, you get such a significant edge by going building around that cornerstone quarterback, and very to the point where it's unreplaceable. I mean, if you're looking at rookies trying to replace the advantage you're getting from Herbert overall, it's very hard to ever assume that you're going to have that in a rookie draft. So generally, if I'm trading away like an elite level quarterback like that, I want the other party to be overpaying for said option. Like Cousins, Jefferson is kind of fine. Like you're seeing Jefferson go pick 7, pick 8 of Superflex startups, whereas Herbert pick 5, pick 6. I think it kind of depends on what you could flip Cousins for. If you could somehow, some way get like a 2024 first for Cousins, sure, I'm about it. But in reality, I'm probably just going to keep Justin Herbert.
Scott, what do you think?
Man, we say BAM tier QBs, right? Any means necessary. And if Kirk Cousins is stopping you from a trade, then it's one where I'm probably like, man, I have to really reconsider that strategy. I will say this. I think the quarterback scoring matters here, which we don't get the context to that in this. Is it 6-point passing touchdown?
Yeah. Let's make it 5. Let's make it 5 right in the middle. It's like a popular thing to do these days.
Can we stop with the half-ass 5-point scoring touchdowns? Like, what is this?
Here's the point. I'm not even gonna talk about 6-point, 5-point, whatever. How about you try that out to Warp Tool? Look at the Warp Tool, how running backs are relative to quarterbacks. That's going to make you decide. You already know what Kirk Cousins is relative to Justin Herbert, right? You're betting that gap is close enough where you've now added essentially Justin Jefferson into the trade, which gives you a bunch of options. You could literally turn around and go, you know what? If I only had one QB and it was Justin Herbert, you could turn Justin Jefferson into Deshaun Watson, and all of a sudden I have Deshaun Watson and Kirk Cousins, and I fixed my QB room with Justin Herbert. You could do something like that. Yep. Aside, though, I would probably take the Herbert side unless my market is one of those where quarterbacks are not valued like they are in this room, to where it's like we would start a startup with 9 straight quarterbacks, 10 straight quarterbacks. You're not trading for Deshaun Watson or Justin Fields. You're not getting one of those guys for Jefferson or Chase. It's a first added to one of those guys to get that. So in that kind of market, I would take the Herbert side. But if it's one of those where values are all over the place, you start a random league on Sleeper and it's 11 people that don't watch this show, you'd probably wouldn't even have to have this type of discussion, because Jefferson would hold the weight of pretty much everybody except for the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because it is an aggressive tear down from Herbert to Cousins, but at least you're getting Jefferson as part of the package. Shane, what do you think about this one, man?
Man, I guess I just want to be contrary tonight. So I'm gonna take Jefferson, and then I'm gonna take Cousins, and then I have the utmost confidence in myself to be able to get a quarterback that's somehow going to make me feel better that I no longer have Herbert. I mean, Jefferson's one of those guys where he goes off the board just in startups around 8 or 9, right? So he's one of those guys like you might sneak him in over one of the lower tier elite quarterbacks. So I'm considering and basing this on the fact that I think my roster is definitely contending. So I'm going to go ahead and get Jefferson and Kirk Cousins, and then see where the balls lie after that.
Yeah, I thought it was a good kind of trade in a vacuum discussion. Obviously, what your current quarterbacks are makes a difference.
There's only 2 wide receivers you could even contemplate this trade with:
Yep.
Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson. No other wide receiver would you even entertain this. You would laugh at someone if they offered you AJ Brown and Kirk Cousins for Justin Herbert.
Okay, let's move to this one here. And Mason, there are lots of people in the crowd who follow us, but they also follow you, understandably. And they're like, you have to ask Mason about Trey Lance. And I saw a picture on your Twitter where it looked like you were aiming at the Trey Lance jersey, and you were like, should I pull the trigger now or wait till it's on sale? Something like that. But here's a trade for you. It's a 12-team Superflex PPR, 1.75 tight end premium, start 10. Trey Lance or a 2025 first, random?
Based on market values right now, you kind of have to take the first round pick. I mean, for the meme, but I kind of want to go ahead and take Trey Lance there. Lance, someone I think like at cost right now is a decent upside shot, but in reality, the flexibility the first round pick gives you is just going to allow you to make so many more moves, especially during the season if you have to construct your roster in a certain way. Whereas Lance may be someone you're just kind of sitting with.
Yeah, before we move to Scott and Shane, why do you like why are you bullish, or at least more bullish than the market, on Trey Lance, Mason?
So a big thing I do is just look at historical data. I mean, everything that I pretty much talk about is based off what we have with historical data. And if you go back to quarterbacks that were selected inside the top 4 picks since the year 2000, it's like we were looking at like a 22-year sample. The fewest amount of starting games you've seen from those said quarterbacks was like Jamarcus Russell with like 31, and then RG3 with like 43. So what ends up happening is these teams that go through and invest that much into an individual quarterback, they're, historically speaking, unless they're as bad as Jamarcus Russell, that's really the only thing that you can find through history. They're willing to give quarterbacks chances to fail over and over and over again. We saw the same thing with Blake Bortles. We saw the same thing with Mitchell Trubisky. Now we're seeing the same thing with Baker Mayfield. So essentially the thesis is Lance is probably not good at the game of football, but he's probably going to get a chance to start for a year or two. And he's someone that does have rushing upside. And we saw from a couple different quarterbacks over the past few years that doesn't really matter if you're good at football or not. If you're going to actually be a starter and have rushing upside, then probably going to be decent fantasy.
Scott, Shane, team trades in 5. What do you have to say about that? Look at Scott. He's like stretching a little bit, cracking his back. Go ahead, Shane.
No, it's just, Mason brought up Baker Mayfield, and I that kind of feels like best case scenario. Like I might get a start out of him for the Los Angeles Rams, whatever they are, at some point 3 years down the road after they blow a first on them. Yeah, teams do generally give their guy a shot when they put that much draft capital in them, except that San Francisco has already shown that they pretty much hate Trey Lance without actually completely saying they hate Trey Lance. For some reason, they want to give Brock Purdy the job. Look, I don't agree with it. If I was a San Francisco coach, I'd much rather see what Trey Lance can do, but they seem to have an affinity for Brock Purdy and even Sam Darnold for reasons that are beyond my comprehension.
Yeah, I only have about a couple minutes. Otherwise, we'll hog the whole stream talking about this topic. But it's interesting because Mason brought that up in the first name I think of is Zach Wilson's not going to get to 30 starts. He's already been replaced. That's the most recent example of a guy that probably doesn't get to 30 starts unless you're talking 2025, 2026, or further out. He starts to start again. I think the other thing with Trey Lance is one interesting thing about rushing quarterbacks is we don't value Daniel Jones in the top 12. Yeah, you sit here and you go, is it guaranteed Trey Lance can rush for 800 yards in a season? Is it just guaranteed? Like, we just give him that off the rip? Because you look at the last 2 years, 60% of the top 12 QBs have been pocket passers. They're not rushers. Yeah, there are rushers in there. But, like, if you're betting on a top 12 QB, you're probably looking at, like, who is the next? You're probably looking at somebody like C.J. Stroud has just as much of a chance to get into that top 12 based on just passing efficiency than somebody like Trey Lance. And I'm not shitting on him. The only thing I'll say with Lance is if he is named the starter because of whatever reason, I wish I had some Trey Lance simply to get out of because it's a smart market play to say, I want Trey Lance in my portfolio. If he's named the starter, there's going to be people going, oh man, here we go. Let's go. I'll give you a first and a second. So I kind of agree with Mason's sentiment. Like you take the first now, but man, if there is that window, you want to have that selling power in your portfolio. If you don't have that, you missed out. But if you're buying at a price where you're paying a first to get in, that's the only reason I'd be getting in. And if I'm not getting in at a late second, 2/3, something like that, or you're pivoting off of a QB that is technically a starter, can I get Trey Lance for Ryan Tannehill in 2/3? Something like that where it's just egregious. I don't care about the value that I piss away. Then fine. But and the third thing I'll just say about Lance is the biggest problem with him is he's on San Francisco. They have no incentive for 2 years to do anything but park him on the bench. They have no incentive to trade him to somewhere else. Because guess what? If he gets traded, let's say he went to the Titans, right? Or the Vikings next year. What if he's good? Who looks like an idiot in that trade? San Francisco, right? Because they dumped him for nothing. So I think they're just going to ride it out for 2 years. If he doesn't contribute, he doesn't contribute. They don't pick up his fifth-year option, and then he goes somewhere else. But they have no incentive to trade him. because obviously there was no market for him, or they would have already done it. If someone was going to give him a second or a third or 2/3 or something, they would have already done it, and there was no market.
Well, see, there might things real quick.
Sorry, go ahead.
One, I agree. I'd rather have C.J. Stroud. I agree. C.J. Stroud is probably more likely to be a top 12 quarterback. I don't think that's the conversation here. Two, Zach Wilson started like 25 games. Lance started 25 games. I'll be happy. I think he's worth the current cost. Three, are you saying like Lance is the biggest bust of all time? Because if Lance is done starting, if Lance is not a starting quarterback, he is the biggest draft bust of all time. So I just wanted to hear that.
I don't know if you could say of all time, because I don't think he had the same type of buzz that somebody like Jamarcus Russell did as a number 1 overall pick. But historically speaking, looking at literally they've gotten what, 2 starts out of Trey Lance, and is it 3 starts in his whole career? If he doesn't start again for San Francisco, whatever he ends up being from what the acquisition cost was from San Francisco, if I'm a San Fran fan and he only starts 3 games and then he goes somewhere else and doesn't start again until 2026, I have to think that he's the biggest bust of all time.
See, that's my point. My bet is very hard to pin down someone to be such an outlier like that. And I'm going to follow the historical data. And if the historical data says he has the season starting in him, regardless of what that context may be, then I think that if you're looking at like the 18th round of a best ball draft right now, or if you're able to go and trade a 2nd round rookie pick and go pick him up with a quarterback that does have rushing upside. I mean, if you're looking at the percentage of quarterbacks in the NFL that can reasonably get to 800 rushing yards, I mean, he's not going to be Burrow, but I mean, hell, if he can be Daniel Jones, that's phenomenal. Daniel Jones is pretty damn close to the top 12 quarterback.
Well, you did bring up Zach Wilson. So say Trey Lance even gets 2 years of starting, but he gives you Zach Wilson production. Like, you didn't get anything out of that. So I think if someone's going to give you a 25 first now, like, what do you think the upside is for Trey Lance if he starts?
Well, keep in mind, at the very beginning of this question, I said I'll take the 2025 first.
Right. No. Yeah. So let's say we hold on to Trey Lance. Like, what's the most we could ever get for him? Do we think a 24 first?
Can get ever for him? Are we talking pure upside here? Pure upside is this is a quarterback that just got injured last year. And what if he's actually good? Who the hell knows? So if we're talking pure upside, with the crazy scenario that Trey Lance is somehow good at football, and he can be both the top 5 quarterback in rushing yards and rushing touchdowns at the same time. With like I said, this is a crazy scenario. This is not the median projection, but this crazy scenario comes out. He's an okay quarterback in football, throwing the ball to Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, CMC, top 5 quarterback in rushing yards and rushing touchdowns. I think he'd be a top 10 quarterback in fantasy.
Well, Mason, let me ask you this, because I think this is something fascinating that's changed in Dynasty, even since you got into the content creation space. This is a immediate gratification game now, right? You don't have time to wait for players for 2 years. You barely have time to wait 1 year on a player. But the fact that somebody like Trey Lance, I had, I think, 5 shares of Trey Lance going into this spring. As soon as Brock Purdy had his surgery, I was able to flip those just for any first. I'm the kind of person that goes, all right, I'm out at this moment. I'm liquidating everything I have. And I just spam. I'll put it in the chat. I don't care what team it is, process over players, right? But the fact that 2.5 years down the road, almost, you could still get that for Trey Lance after everything that's happened, that kind of speaks to the reason where if his price is low enough, I'm actually okay buying back in at this point, because all it's going to take is literally a 48-hour window where you recover 90% of that price.
So let me ask.
No, I want to ask a question. We actually play in a ton of dynasty leagues. Where the fuck have you seen anyone giving up a 25 first or a 24 first for Trey Lance? I haven't. So this is a mystery.
No. I'm talking about in February and March. I'm going, I want out. He's done. And that's before the June, July sentiment now, where, of course, yes, his price has adjusted now. You ask for a first for Trey Lance, it's a smash, regardless of the year.
As soon as Brock Purdy started his little run last year, Trey Lance's value plummeted.
But the fact that it bounced back up
I don't think it has. I don't see. I play in a few leagues.
I got the receipt, Shane.
I got the receipts. 30-some. I've never seen Trey Lance traded for a first.
I've got the receipts in multiple leagues where I traded him this spring for random firsts.
Let's move on. Let's move on from Lance.
This is a triggering topic, clearly.
Yeah. No, it's all good. I mean, we're gonna be on here for a minute for sure. So who knows? Trey Lance may sneak back up here. Mason, let's get a baseline on you. How many dynasty leagues do you play in?
I think at this point 22. So
okay. I'm right there.
In how I play, to be completely honest, so during the season, I have to go through and I start live streaming question and answer stuff at 7 a.m, Sunday morning, all the way up until NFL kickoff. I wish I was still in the position where I could only care about my fantasy football leagues. That's the only thing that mattered to me, blah, blah, blah. But frankly speaking, like from a business decision for what's best for me is it makes more sense for me to answer questions and be live during that time. So going forward, I can't even join any more dynasty leagues. Like for me to go through and during those live shows to try to submit 20 starting lineups each and every week, it's like almost impossible, because you can't just submit your starting lineup on Saturday night, feel good about it. Like, you know what I mean?
No.
So what I've been trying to do now is a lot of the new dynasty leagues that have been in over the past few years. Once I realized like, hey, this is my life going forward, has been trying to do as many dynasty best ball leagues as I personally can.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Scott's all about that. He's going to make us a dynasty best ball warp show if we let him do it.
That's the saddest thing about content creation, jobs, everything else is you're like, oh, I can't actually focus on these teams the way I want to. So like I was in 50 leagues a couple years ago and I was like, all right, this is just absurd. Like there's no way I can do this. And we've talked about this before. You start putting your lineup in for the next week, Monday night. Like as soon as the game's over, you're like, all right, I got to turn the next week.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's embarrassing for me because during the season, I'm probably working literally 80 hours a week. I'm doing 5 hours of live shows every single day for 200 days in a row, multiple videos every single day. So like there were leagues where I had a co-owner that I thought he was like submitting starting lineups. And then I found out in like week 6 that my team hasn't submitted starting lineup over the past 3 weeks. I had guys on bye in starting lineup. So it's just embarrassing on my fault. It's 100% my fault. Like, you know what I mean? Shouldn't have taken on the league in the first place if I was going to have those. To be honest, all these leagues were before my life turned into constant live streams and stuff. So it sucks. I wish I could get into more startups and I wish I could bump that number up from 20, but I'm a shitty owner as is in terms of like week to week management during the year.
So let's go into this. Mason, this is a question for you. So you do, if anybody follows Mason, I know Mason brought some of the flock with him tonight, but he does you do multiple underdog drafts, I feel like every day, but at least one minimum. How do you use best ball to your advantage in Dynasty? Because oftentimes I'll see you pull up the player props on Underdog. I saw you do it for like Damian Pierce and all on your last Dynasty show. How do you use best ball and your experience with best ball, making $150K last year, to your advantage in Dynasty?
I would say in general, you can't really use it in determining projections. If you really wanted to stretch it, you maybe could, where you could look and say, okay, well, Rashee Rice being drafted around 11 right now. You have Josh Downs not even getting drafted in these contests. What does that really tell us? It's difficult to take that away, but what you can do is just because the volume of drafts that you have on those best ball platforms, it gives you updated real data of what the overall market is sensing with individual players. So you really begin to see how guys are trending, right? And what the overall hive mind is thinking on an individual guy. And if you're just in drafts more often, especially those best ball drafts, because so many people fire so many every single day, you get more so a sense of where the market's maybe going with the player, right or wrong. It's not saying like, okay, people are now going to be drafting Alvin Kamara higher tomorrow than they were today. Let's go try to sell them high. And it's not one for one like that, but in terms of just the raw amount of drafts and the raw amount of data that you can source from it.
Yeah. So before you hop in, Scott, let me just add this in as well. So if someone actually does like to check ADP and stuff, I know like we don't, at least speaking for us, we're not exactly watching it that much. Is best ball, like Underdog best ball, is that a good place to start as opposed to these other large platforms? Should people be going to Underdog and be looking at best ball ADP as a better reflection of the current market? Scott, Mason, whatever. That's just part of the question baked in. Scott, you can address it.
Well, I was just going to say this. I mean, here's a reality people don't really want to hear when it comes to Dynasty. But if you're looking at some sort of efficient redraft ADP, and I think the best thing about best ball and in Underdog is that it has such a high amount of volume going into it that largely you're going to catch a lot of that consensus when you're playing Dynasty. So I think that's the first thing, is you can pretty much use Underdog ADP. And obviously there's adjustments with the scoring, the format, all that stuff. But you can kind of use that as a very rough baseline as to what the upcoming season or how the masses are viewing the upcoming season. So I think that's the first thing. In Mason's example, Rashee Rice versus Josh Downs, the reality is neither of them are worth jack shit if they don't perform this year. And that's the reality in Dynasty. You need the one. If you're playing it like a commodity game or you're playing a market game, I want the one that has a chance to produce this year. I don't have a year where I can wait for things to settle in place. I'll adjust next year if something settles in place after a bad year. So right there with Mason's example, you would automatically just take Rashee Rice over Josh Downs, no question, if you're looking at their underdog ABP and it's 3 rounds apart. So I think that's one good thing. The second thing is the amount of involvement in roster construction discussion over the last couple of years. That is the key, because if you get into dynasty leagues when half the people do not understand roster construction, they're inefficient, whether it's best ball or lineup. That's part of the Mind Warp series that we're doing, talking about roster construction. It's different, but if you're inefficient in either format, you're leaving some meat on the bone. And then that goes into activity and trading and all of that kind of stuff. But I think when it comes to underdog best ball, it is creating a new type of dynasty player that comes to the game with a mind that is thinking differently than they did 5 years ago, 10 years ago, where it was all about who are the good players, who have these metrics in their profiles. And largely when you get into a large dynasty market, it just doesn't matter. 90% of players do not matter in dynasty except for what is their short-term projection. This is not a 10-year stock market that we're playing. If you just are ahead of the game in your dynasty league in the next year, you're going to be fine. If you're active, if it's an active trade market, you're just creating value across your teams, you're going to be fine. It doesn't matter if you hit on a player 2 years or 3 years out. You're going to have time to adjust because you accrued some money early on. I make some money in the short term. Maybe I have a bad bet long term, but it doesn't matter. I have more money in my account now. I just have to go spend it right the next year. If you have a sound process, you're going to constantly always be making a profit.
Yep. Shane, do you have any thoughts on that, or should I move on to our first super and adjust the crowd?
I could say lots of things about best ball, but none of them would make any sense. So yeah, I would move on.
Yeah, Shane is not a best ball guy.
I'm
at
a
least
purist.
not yet.
That's
fine, dude. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not cracking on you. Okay, so let's move on to let's say what's up to the crowd. We have 411 eyeballs, is what I like to say, Mason, for better or worse. 411 people in here who have already hit the like. Thanks so much for joining. This is a massive moment for our channel, Mason. Thank you. Let's go to Eric here with the super chat. Thank you, sir. 10-team Superflex, half PPR, start 12. Are you going Lamar or Goff, Pitts, and a late 24 first projected?
Shane, you go. Seems like Mason and I have done most of the talking.
Look at that face. Shane has a convicted answer. Go ahead, Shane.
Why would you even think about this? It's Lamar, obviously, by a lot. Get out of here with that nonsense. The late 24 first. Like, you didn't even have to put late. You could have just put 24 first, unless that's the 101 and I'm getting Caleb Williams. Not even thinking about it. It's Lamar.
Yeah, especially half PPR. I'm good. Essentially giving away the fake value of Kyle Pitts in half PPR and a late first and Goff. Feels like a lot, but yeah, give me the Lamar side. Easy.
Can I ask y'all a question real quick?
Of course.
Whenever y'all read people's messages that say late first, mid first, early first, how much weight are y'all putting into that?
What they're saying it is.
Because in my mind, I tell people, like, if you're telling me a future pick, I'm assuming it's a 2024 first. You know what I mean? Unless someone really specifies, hey, this is a juggernaut team, or hey, this team is complete garbage, you know, because I think a lot of times you'll get messages, and my assumption, and based off what I've seen interacting with a lot of people through Discord and stuff, is they'll say it's a late first, and you look at the team and it's like, okay, it looks reasonable. Like, you know what I mean? It's not guaranteed to win the league by any means. Obviously, this is Lamar no matter what, but I was just interested.
Yeah, we've discussed that before, where people are really bad valuing future picks. So I always just talk about, like, it's a 24 first or a first, whatever. It's a mystery box. It could be anything. Like, until the middle of the season, you generally don't have a concrete idea of where that's going to be, because there's plenty of times in dynasty leagues where you've got a killer team and you look up and all of a sudden somehow you've got a top 5 pick and you can't figure out how, but unfortunately you traded that top 5 pick away to get you some DJ Moore.
Yeah, we've had many discussions with our subs on live streams about that. So Eric has been a sub for a minute. Definitely recognize that name. So if our supporters are saying early or late, they tend to really think it's going to be early or late. But yes, we always try to assume mid. Okay, let's go to Chris. 3:39 p.m. Rolling up with an early question. I got a couple other non-super chats starred like that as well. Chris, thank you. 12-team Superflex, no tight end premium, start 10, contender. Trade away Burks, Charbonnet, Bigsby, and a 24 first, projected mid-late. Receive Devontae Adams, Rashad Penny, Jacoby Myers, and a 24 second. Do it now, or is this a deal to hold off on?
Man, it's got some of Shane's favorite players in this one. Got Sharbs, last year, Treylon Burks.
Oof.
It feels like a decent value, but I also would be fine just holding on to those pieces. You're riding with 4 of the 5 pieces that have any real value or value momentum. You're trading away here, so I'm fine just waiting. Maybe
on
even
on a contender.
I have no interest in making this move in July. What if something better comes up in August? It feels like I'm throwing away a lot of my flexibility for 2 Raiders receivers and a situation with Devontae Adams that I'm basically paying peak price for in July when I don't have to.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's early. It's very
early. For once, I like to agree with Scott about the whole timing of this. Like, there's no impetus to make this trade right now. Literally none. Like, even if Treylon Burke comes out and has a horrible first 3 weeks, is his dynasty value going to plummet that far that I still can't use him and a 24 first at that point to get Devontae Adams or better? Probably not.
Mason, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I'm just so against trading away future picks, even on contending teams during the summer, because what's going to happen in every single dynasty league is there's going to be a pretender that's sitting with Nick Chubb week 4 and doing anything they can to sell him for a 2024 first. So I generally want to hold my future first during the year. You can then confirm that you're actually contending, because I run into a lot of people that think they're contending and they're not, and they trade away a first and just screw them themselves with the flexibility during the season. They can't all of a sudden punt in week 3 or 4. 2, if you wait to trade that first, you can actually take a look and trade it for a player that you know is healthy and you know is producing and you know you actually need on your roster. So unless you're trading away your future first, even if you're a contending team and you are getting an absolute steal of a deal, I'm holding on to every future first I can, because you just have so much more flexibility during the year.
Mason, let me ask your opinion on this real quick, because it seems to be what you just said is exactly how I would think about it. Right. Until you get to that trigger point where everyone in your league knows your 6-0 team is going to be a guaranteed late first, right? Like, there's that point where it still says random and no one really has any data to judge your team. But behind the scenes, you've looked at all the tools we have out there. You've projected and you're like, you know what? I'm pretty confident of this pick. I want to fire that pick earlier rather than later, when maybe I'm 3-1 with the most points, but everyone in the league hasn't already pinpointed me as like an automatic team that's going to get a bye. How do you gauge like when the best time? Because it was interesting you said week 4. I don't know if that was intentional, but I've had times where I go, oh man, I have 3 firsts. I'm just going to, because I have more leverage than everybody, I'm going to hold them. Then you get to week 11 and it's projected to be the 109, 111, and 112. And the market is actually fallen out for those picks. Even though they're future picks, they don't hold the same weight as they might have in the summer when it was 3 randoms. When do you normally make that decision before the league kind of looks at your pick like, oh man, that's a tough team to accept their first. It's going to be late.
So I'll say a couple different things. If you find yourself in the great situation where you're 6-0, 7-0,
yeah, right.
At that point, maybe you're not even having to trade away your future first, and if you're actually going to get a real difference-making player that will push you over the edge and maybe move the needle and take you from just being a 6-0 team to actually winning your league, I think you kind of have to structure deals in a different way, and that you're never going to be in a position where you really want to go through and trade a future first straight up for an individual like depth piece. Like if you trade away a future first for Jerry Jeudy, who the hell cares? If you're 6-0, is Jerry Jeudy really moving the needle for you one way or another? So regardless, what you're going to have to do with the pick is you're going to have to package it with like a lower tier player and move up for a stud if you can, by going through and say trading away a future first and random Daniel Jones for an elite level quarterback or whatever it may be. You're going to have to do something that will actually move the needle if you're a 6-0 team as is. So I just view it differently. I view it if you're fortunate enough to be that strong of a roster, trading away future first for a veteran straight up's not going to do anything for you anyway.
So let's move on to this one right here. Justin, thank you for the super chat. He says, go Birds. Unfortunately, I have to read that when people put that just because Shane's an Eagles fan. Let's go to his question. Thank you again. Superflex start 9, no tight end premium. Come on, Mr. Justin. How many teams in your league? No, it's fine. We'll figure this out. Traded rookie picks 107. Oh, I was about to say, maybe we'll find it out right now. Traded rookie picks 107, 112. No, so traded rookie picks 107, 109, and a mid to late 24 second for Garrett Wilson. How did I do? Also have pick 101 and 105 still. So it looks like it's a pretty shallow league. Let's just assume 12 team start 9. Gave up the 107, 109, a 24 second for Garrett Wilson.
Paid to brag. Nice trade.
I like it, man. I guess, like, where does that first pick have to be to where it's like what if it's 104, 109, and a 24 second? Does that make it a little tighter? Make it pucker up down there?
Shade, in a start 9, would you give up Jordan Addison and Zay Flowers for Garrett Wilson?
Yeah, right.
I would go ahead and do that, yeah. But no, for where I'd have to pucker up, yeah, it's 104. It's Superflex, so it's where one of the quarterbacks is. As soon as we get out of the quarterback range, then whatever. You have my 105, 107, 109. They're all yours.
The crazy thing is they let the team that also has the 101 and the 105 just take his extra picks that are outside of probably the warp range you would want and get another player that's inside like the top 2 or 3 value. Like, I wouldn't look at this team and go, man, this team's getting Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm just going to also trade him Garrett Wilson for the extra picks that I know he's going to still have to make if I don't make this trade. So someone just handed this team a monster.
But you know that the person that made that trade, at least you would hope, they're just absolutely barren. Like, it's Garrett Wilson and like their wide receiver 2 is Wan'Dale Robinson. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those rosters. Like, that's where you're like, I don't have a choice. Like, I have to split this asset even in a start 9, even though, you know, that's not ideal.
We have a consensus, Mason. You going with Garrett Wilson here because it's 107, 109. Those aren't exactly high leverage firsts.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're looking at 2 tier drops, pick 6, pick 8. You're right outside the tiers. These are the picks you want to be selling. So yeah, definitely Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, that's a pretty easy one. Easy one there.
Well, let me ask, if it was pick 6 and 8, would y'all take the picks?
6 and 8. I'm so far removed from my rookie draft.
JSN and Johnston or JSN and Addison.
Let me ask you this, Mason. If I can flip that 20 or that 108 for a 24 first, and you present me JSN and a 24 first for Garrett Wilson, I at least look at it and I go, all right, I got to look at my league. How active is it? What can I turn around and do with that extra pick that I've now banked? I'll make the bet on JSN versus Garrett Wilson there. It's a start 9, so it's a little tougher, but you can at least understand that logic, right? Of saying that's a smart process trade to do that. Shane wouldn't. He's taking Garrett.
Oh no,
Wilson.
it's a very fine process trade. I'm not doing it at all. I'm 1,000% holding on to Garrett Wilson because based on his cohorts, the guy's going to be an elite wide receiver 1, and I'm hoping JSN might be, although the situation for his rookie year isn't great. And we already know what happens when rookies don't hit at wide receiver. So, I'll hold Garrett Wilson. It's the Chris Olave thing. Like, I get all tied up in the name or whatever. They're the same dude to me because of the production profile out of their rookie year.
So Mason, let's put this up here. I know you said, you're just a quote unquote bad like dynasty manager, whatever you called yourself because you're too busy. But let's say you were to shed some leagues. You're like, man, I'm training well for this Ironman. I can start a new dynasty league. What are the settings that you would put in place? What's your favorite format? Number of teams, Superflex, 1 QB, any tight end premium?
Are we talking like best case scenario here? I don't have to worry about finding other people.
You're in full control. You've got 11 people or whatever ready to party.
The flock wants to play with you.
Yeah.
So you do whatever
14
you want.
teams, Superflex, best ball. Start 2 tight ends, start 10. I'd say about 14 teams, so 25-man roster, 5-man taxi.
Any so start 2 tight end, no premium since you're starting 2, or is there a little premium you tack on? Not enough 14
team. Start 2, no premium. Honestly, I feel like if it's a 1.5 point per reception versus 1 point, is there a real difference? You know what I mean? As long as you have to start 2.
That's always look at Shane's face. Shane, I got to go to you before Scott. Shane hates 2 tight end leagues, and that's not a strong word. That's like a weak word. Shane would use a much stronger word. What what are your thoughts on that? I love it. 14 team Superflex, start 2 tight end, best ball.
I wouldn't join the
shallow rosters. What's up?
I wouldn't join the league because there's 2 tight ends. So I'd be like, no, I'm not doing this. You're not making me do this. There's no way that I'm going to roster Logan Thomas and I don't even know, Trey McBride and hope for the best. I can't do it to myself. Look, I'm not one of those people that's like, we got to get rid of tight end out of the whole fantasy rosters because it's hard position. I'm like, no, that's not how you play. Just because it's hard doesn't mean you get rid of it. It doesn't mean I need to add more pain to my life. I have enough pain. I don't want to add more to it. Like, no, I'm going to pass. I'm going to hopefully try to get rope Mason into another league that has 1 tight end, but most of the settings he likes.
But I mean, the thing is that's interesting about a 14 team start 2 tight end is you actually have to care about the tight ends in rookie drafts. Outside of it, you never even have to think about the position. But all of a sudden, when it's a 14 team, 2 tight end format, you have to actually really begin to sit there and ask yourself, like, okay, where the hell am I taking these guys?
And in a best ball, and Scott, I know you've got something to say here, but in a best ball, Mason, if it's a start 2 tight end, 14 team, how many tight ends do you want on your squad? 4?
So if we're talking 25-man rosters with
right.
5-man taxis, so essentially 30-man rosters in a 14-team league, I definitely want more than 4 tight ends. I would say probably 6 tight ends if it start 2.
6. Yep. Scott, go ahead, buddy.
I was going to say, go to southharmonff.com and plug in the warp tool. You'll see a high number in terms of droppables for the tight ends, just because it's basically if they can't be flexed, you want to go as slim as possible. You're almost looking at it like best ball roster construction, especially if it is a best ball league. The ones you have are the ones you have. If you have to go to the waiver wire in that format, you're probably screwed anyway. So you might as well just roster 3, 4 max. I would just say this. I joined a league last year, and I would love if I could continue to join a league like this. Give me leagues with something that's actually on the line. Give me a high buy-in. Give me a $500, give me $1,000 buy-in. But here's the biggest thing. Slim the rosters down to where the starters are high enough. So maybe call it start 12, 24, 25-man rosters, $100 fab, but fab dollars are actually real dollars. So you spend your 100 fab, you're putting another 100 in the pot. You spend 500 fab, you're putting 500 in the pot. Something like that to make it like where you actually have to think the entire time, all the layers. Mason would probably hate that because the most active managers are the ones that usually come out ahead. But
that's old school right there, where people used to have to when we used to play fantasy. It was like every week it was $5 a roster move, and you have to actually think about had to think about your roster moves because you're like, dude, I'm 17. I can't just be dropping $50 on this league in 3 days. Like, no.
And you know what's funny? The one we did it in 2 leagues actually. The buy-ins were extremely high. And you know how much fab has been spent since the rookie draft? Since now, like $2.
$3.
People dropping $500, $1,000 for the league, but they're cheap when it comes to the fab dollars.
At that point, you're pot committed. Do it.
Yeah, pretty much. Lambo 15, thank you for the super chat, man. We got a 1 of 2, 10-team Superflex start 10, half PPR with a tight end premium. Quarterbacks are Justin Herbert, Fields, Anthony Richardson, Stroud. Running backs, Walker, Akers. Wide receivers, Lamb, Higgins, Amon-Ra, Olave, Garrett Wilson, Addison. Tight end, Pitts. Let's keep going here. Traded Anthony Richardson for Brees and a 25 first. Thoughts? Any other moves? I now have 24 first and 2 25 first. Best 2 shows on YouTube. Thank you, man. So let's go back to the 1 of 2 here. He's got some flexibility, right, to be able to trade away a quarterback without getting one in return in a super flex. He's stacked at wide receiver. What are your thoughts here? Because he was light on running back. Yeah, he was traded A-Rich for Brees and 25 first.
Go run those receivers back for me. I'm sorry.
They're ridiculous. Yeah,
Lamb, Garrett Wilson.
It's just embarrassment. Yeah.
Dude, so this was a $4.99 brag, but it was worth it because this is a nice team. This would be the team that like anytime anyone's ever like, oh, I got a good roster, I'd be like, oh no, let me show you this one now.
So in a 10-team start 10 half PPR though, would you rather take a couple of those wide receivers and address running back like Brees Hall with receivers as opposed to giving up one of your quarterbacks? No, it's a 10-team. What do you think? Scott?
Yeah, I mean, I see why he did the trade because he's probably looking at his quarterbacks going, I don't need all 4 of these. But I think if you're looking at it to the next level, I already have Justin Herbert, Justin Fields, and Anthony Richardson. I'm actually gaining more by keeping those guys on my team versus trading them away. Yes, I got Brees. Yes, I got the 25 first, but you have an excess of receivers. You actually have your own picks. Like, I would be the kind of person that'd go, okay, where can I find some value at running back? Because I don't need 2 stud running backs to win this league, right? But I also think, depending on who I traded with, Shane hates when I do this, but if I can hoard something of scarcity in my league, especially in a 10-team league, I'm better off.
That's your specialty.
I am better off eating the zeros with Anthony Richardson on my bench for half this year, if not the whole season, versus trading him away to somebody else, especially for a running back coming off an ACL for a 25 first and a 10-team start 10.
So we're assuming the worst of Brees Hall and the best of Anthony Richardson. Got it.
We're just looking at the assets. If I'm trading Anthony Richardson, it's Bijan.
Yeah.
There isn't a deal where I'm tearing off of Anthony Richardson when I already have him on my roster, because I'm not just losing the value of the first round startup player. I'm not just losing the best asset. I'm actually giving back some of that potential warp to my competition, who's matching the advantage that I've already paid for with Fields and Herbert. I'm just not doing it.
Not stylistically or anything, but I feel like we talked about a quarterback with all this crazy upside. Like when we started this show,
Trey Lance,
completely a mystery box. Oh yeah, Trey Lance. Just saying, you give me Brees Hall, and yes, I have a hard on for Brees Hall, so that's part of it, and a 25 first for the mystery that is Jamarcus Russell / Anthony Richardson. I'm going to do it.
Well, Mason loves Richardson, so where are you at here, Mason?
Honestly, I think it's whatever the hell you want to do. I mean, Richardson right now in best ball drafts being drafted as a top 10 quarterback, right? He comes out, he's the quarterback 10 based off of just his rushing production. Then he's a locked and loaded pick 7, 8 in the startup next year. So I think it's up to you. I don't have a personal strong take either way.
I mean, Richardson could go out there, and he doesn't need to be good at football, like you were talking about earlier, like Trey Lance, and he'll score 18 points a game, not even being good. So yeah, he definitely his value could definitely.
No, exactly. Hey, can I ask y'all a quick side question?
Of course.
Do y'all think Fields is good at football? Would you say Fields is a hit so far?
No.
Okay.
He's a bad quarterback.
I'm horrified. I'm horrified of him.
Yeah. I don't know. He's
4
like
points
he's one
per
of those
passing
guys.
touchdown. I love him.
I have him in, I think, 5 leagues. And in every one of those leagues, I try to trade him. But the only way I'll trade him is if I can get Lamar Jackson back for him. So I'm not trading him in any leagues. Or if I can, that's basically the only trade I'll make.
Let me just say this. This team is stacked, right? You can already tell with the players that he has, he's stacked. Mm-hmm. This is the definition of kind of settling, right? You are trading Anthony Richardson, just trying to escape the potential risk that he carries and aligning your roster more towards what looks nice to set a lineup in week 1. But what is the opportunity cost of trading him away right now? Like Mason said, if he goes out and he's just decent this year, he's going to double in value. And it's not just double in value. It is he becomes a commodity that there's probably 30% of the dynasty community still questions. Yeah. Next year, 100% of people will be bought in.
But there's also the very distinct possibility that he goes out there and looks like EJ freaking Manuel, and this first round startup pick just went from first round startup pick to 6th round next year, and it's still just based on
like a mid second round startup pick next year.
No way.
The thing is, it truly doesn't matter if he runs the ball. Justin Fields just earned the number 1 overall NFL pick and had the worst passing offense since 2010, and he's a consensus first round startup pick, and it's not even remotely close. I would honestly maybe be a little more interested, if you're looking at the trajectory and range of outcomes of where their value is a year from now, of trading Fields and getting Bijan plus a little. I think that I would honestly maybe be a little bit more interested in that.
Love that. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah. Okay. We'll move off of that. Even though I had a second follow-up question, we've already beat the shit out of that one. Here, let me unstar that one. Let's put up Cheeky Hobson, repping the flock. Thanks for collabing with Mason. Hey, thanks for the super chat. And yeah, it's it's an awesome night, man.
Long time. He comes to the flock meetups.
Oh, does he? Yeah. Cool. Good stuff. Yeah. Somebody in the chat was saying that you typically, that you do one around here. And I was like, what, today? I was like, because I'm here, but I just met up with Mason last night. So let's go on to Jack here. 1 of 2. Thank you, Jack. 12-team Superflex start 10 with a 0.25 point per carry, so a big point per carry there. Burrow, Stroud, and Cousins at QB. Derrick Henry, Walker, Kamara, Swift, Gibson. Has CDT, Hollywood, and Pitts. Don't have my 24 first. The trade is send Cousins, T, and a 25 first for Gibbs, Jimmy G, and Keenan Allen. The 0.25 PPC throws it off for me. Worth it to send the stability for the hammer running back, or good with what I have? It's start 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 3 flex.
Mason, is Gibbs a hammer running back and a point per carry?
No,
Or does
I
it
hate
even matter.
No.
This is a horrible trade. Yeah, don't do
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
It's good that Mason said something somewhat mean. It's a horrible trade, Jack.
I mean,
what do
if you just break it
bro?
down, I'd way rather have. I'd probably rather have T. Higgins in the future first over the entire other side, and you're just getting Kirk Cousins on it for free.
Yeah,
Don't do it, Jack. Don't do it.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a done deal. So Jack, don't do it, but stay on with us on this.
And I'm
Any-
sorry, this was a super flex, and he was like, "This is super flex, right?"
Yeah,
Was the first part.
Yeah,
Wasn't paying
12-team
attention.
Superflex.
And he's like, "Oh yeah, here you go. Here's just a top 14 quarterback while we're at it." Like just for
I would say in a 0.25 point per carry format, you're going to see Burrow, Stroud, Cousins get outkicked even a little bit more from the QBs who run. I mean, Burrow will have some rushing attempts, but if you're looking at like Stroud and Cousins on the other hand, I don't hate the idea at all of pivoting off Cousins. I think the play would be trying to get back someone like Daniel Jones.
right.
Oh, and here's the other problem is this is a team where he doesn't have a 24 first. He now traded his 25 first on a team that has Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara. You know what I mean? This team could go bad very quickly, and then in 2 years you're going,
Then you're toast.
what did I get for that 102 in 2025? And you're going, wow, I got Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah.
And
Can we talk about this for 1 second? Because I've noticed it's a lot of people that are just getting into Dynasty and they haven't played for a long time. But in my mind, there is no reason whatsoever for someone to go through and trade away their 2024 first and their 2025 first and lock themselves into the current roster that they have right now, have no flexibility over the next 2 years, take on all the risk while doing so. Like, how many situations have you found yourself in where you're like, man, this trade's so good. Yeah, I'm fine having no future first for the next 2.5 years.
Yeah, some leagues are just super casual. You can tell right off the bat, they're just first and everything are just slinging all over the place. There are
Dude,
4 pieces on one second, Shane. There are 4 pieces on one side of the trade, 5 on the other. It's basically a roster swap. So maybe it's league economy stuff, but I totally agree with you, Mason. What's up, Shane?
No, I was going to say it's a couple things. It's like Mason said, it's a lot of new people that are playing, so they don't value rookie picks yet. And also, it's a lot of these new players are playing on sleeper, who's like, sure, you want to have picks out to 2027? Sure, we'll add them. Whereas MFL is like, no. You will get these picks doled out on a yearly basis, and we will not go any further than next year.
Can I have this controversial take? I know y'all probably not going to like this, but I don't think it should be an option for people to trade 2026 picks right now. I don't see the reason for it one way or another. I don't think it does the league any good whatsoever. I don't think it should be an option.
I don't think so either. And honestly, for better, maybe it's just me and I'm a diva or something, but I think it's obnoxious when I keep getting 19 offers and it's a 26 first or a 26 second. It's like, get the 26 out of my face. I don't even want to deal with that right now.
I can't think of that. I can't figure out the math on a 26
No,
first.
I just
it's actually worth today. I'm not
still
I'm
a
not-
first, but I don't
not that advanced.
care. I don't care. Okay, let's go to this one right here from Mark. Thank you for the question. 12-team start 9 Superflex. Trade Chris Godwin and a 24 first projected mid for T. Higgins. So we don't have what looks like we're light on. We have enough. What do you think?
No.
Let's assume full PPR.
It
Start
feels like
9.
I'm casting my one stone right now, and I say projected mid. What if that goes south and it's 104, 103, and you just traded Marvin Harrison Jr. and Chris Godwin for T. Higgins? It just feels like a deal where anytime you have this package, even if it's not Chris Godwin, it's probably the other 2-3 receivers you have in the same tier. You can get this type of trade at a later time. I wouldn't do it. It's not the players, because you could say, oh man, it's an upgrade at receiver. That 3 points per game or whatever I'm going to get could be a big upgrade. I just don't like the process here, because Mason's used the word a couple times, flexibility. You lose all your flexibility for what? a place where you'd look at the receiver production in Warp and you'd be like, it's pretty flat already. Unless T. Higgins is a top 8 or better receiver, which isn't even a great bet to begin with. So I'm good. Pass.
That's what I was going to say. You can say players' names. So, like, if this were A.J. Brown, C.D. Lamb, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, all right, that's a different discussion. Whatever, they're in that tier. If that's a different discussion than T. Higgins, who I like, you know what I mean? But like Scott said, he's not top 8.
It would have to be so ultra specific. Like if I
T.
had
Higgins league.
No, if I had like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and I also have Burrow, so I'm like shedding a Tampa Bay wide receiver and creating a stack. We'll move on.
Well, can I say something with that?
Of course. What's up?
A structure like that, you were taking on all the risk while having no upside. That trade can go poorly for you on a multitude of different ways. One, it's a possibility Godwin outscores Higgins this next year. Obviously, that's not the projection, but it's in the range of outcomes. It's possible. 2, like Scott already said, it's a possibility that first-round pick is worth more straight up than T. Higgins next year based on where it lands. So the only way you can ever win a trade like that is if that first-round pick ends up being a late first, while at the same time T. Higgins turned out to be a top 6 wide receiver in fantasy. Like, and in my mind, that's a deal that you can take during the season once you have way more information at your disposal. But right now, when we're just operating with projections, you're taking on all the risk and none of the upside.
Yeah, it seems like a consensus so far, at least, is that, I mean, as a show too, we don't like to trade our first like this time of year, or like if we don't have to, period. You know, we're not as loose with our first as some folks are.
Well, it's this time of year because I get 50 direct messages a week, and it's usually a lot of times, man, I'm bored. It's basically, without saying these words, I'm bored. I have some trades I can make. And a lot of times it's like, I'm a win now team. Let me gut all of my future picks to make my lineup look awesome. And I don't know how many times you can just sit here and use that argument of, can you do this later? Is it making you less flexible? Are you making bad bets if you put everything in terms of just odds? Would you actually make a bet if I laid it out to you? And most of the time it's like, yeah, that's a good point. Maybe I'll hold off. Now, I don't know if people end up doing these trades or not, but a lot of times it's like it's already ready to be accepted. And I'm going, why would you give up 2 firsts and a player for 1 player? You can't even really tell me the format that would make sense unless it's so egregious. So that's why people get bored during the summer. They're looking for ways to upgrade their starting lineup. They don't think about this stuff.
I don't appreciate that, because I was sitting in my office this afternoon and I was on Sleeper, and I said, I'm just going to go through every league and offer out a trade to as many people as I can. But although I didn't send any like trades where I'm just gutting my future, you know, I'm offering picks, but it's in places where I have multiple picks, and I'm being specific on whose picks I'm being, who I'm offering out.
Okay, let's move on to this super chat here from JN. Thank you very much. It's part 1 of 2. It's a 10-team start 12 Superflex, 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, 3 wide receivers, half PPR. Startup is in 4 days. LFG. Yeah, I got that. I never like say it out loud or just type it. Okay, via trades in 5, I got 107 plus 109 plus 10. Okay.
Picks.
All right. For the love of God. Let me start over here.
He's got the 107, the 109
it.
plus 10 picks in round 6 through 10 and 324 first. None being his own.
My notes from a past stream: focus/fill rest of lineup with points. So generally, vet NFL team starters, example, running backs, Henry, Mixon, Madison, wide receivers, he rings off a few. Do I go tight end 1 and tight end 2 ASAP at 609, 702? League values, early to mid startup picks over future picks. Is my QB3 in round 11 through 13 okay? You have to be like, first off, a lot more flexible than this, right? Like even planning out, the startup is in 4 days, like planning out what you're going to do. But go ahead, guys.
Well, I mean, it's a 10-team start 12, so you're really looking at a 12-team start 10. The scarcity is the same. You've acquired 2 top 9 picks, which means you're going to get 2 top 9 quarterbacks. Perfect. You've already executed that. You've traded back and around because you now have 10 picks inside the top 10 rounds, plus those 2 first-round startup picks. Or I'm reading that if he only has 10 total. So it really doesn't matter. But if he has extra picks, then that's even better. But he still stayed within the range where he has the same number of picks in the first 10 rounds as he started with. He's converted those picks into 2 extra 24 firsts, and he traded up. So he basically did exactly what we would have said to do. Trade up, get the elite quarterbacks, trade back, accumulate the futures.
Mm-hmm.
Build your team structurally how you want. Go for it. It doesn't matter who you draft. You want to take Derrick Henry, you want to take Joe Mixon, Keenan Allen, Mike Evans, DeAndre Hopkins, it doesn't matter. There's spots to take flexibility. There's spots to build your core. But once you get outside of the top 4 or 5 rounds here, I don't care. Go for the championship this year. You're set up for next year. You've done exactly what I would try to do, and you'd kind of do like a soft punt, but you have the ability to go right back in it once you have more information. So I think you executed this great. I'm not even going to talk about what players to draft. I have no clue until I'd see your board, so it doesn't even matter.
Can I say something real quick?
Of course. You can.
While you're here, Mason,
you can chime in whenever you want.
Yeah, I think this is very different between a 12-team start 10 and a 10-team start 12. Quarterback supply and demand is going to be completely different in your 10-team Superflex league in comparison to your 12-team Superflex league. The amount of wide receivers and running backs you're going to be starting is actually going to skew the overall percentage of your starting lineup output you're getting from each position. So I just do want to put an asterisk on that. Of course, I'm an idiot. I could be wrong, but I view a 10-team start 12 Superflex league fundamentally different than a 12-team start 10. I understand you start 120 players across the league both ways, but in terms of the amount of quarterbacks that are being started versus running backs, wide receivers, it is a little bit different.
Well, let me ask you this, Mason, because we get a lot of questions. More people than I ever expected, and you probably get the same, play in 10-team leagues. It's more common than I ever thought. I don't play in any, but a lot of people do. And we get these.
I've been answering these questions for years now because I'm right there with you. I was surprised to see how many people play in 10-team leagues. They function completely differently. I've seen hundreds of startups of 10-team formats. I've seen maybe 1 million trades that go down in them. Quarterback position value is wildly different. If you just go through and think about it, right? If you're in a 12-team format, everybody on average is going to have 2 to 3 QBs. There are going to be 1 or 2 teams in your league that are rostering 4 starters. So there's going to be that natural supply and demand where there are always going to be buyers in the quarterback market, and there aren't always going to be sellers. But once you transition to that 10-team Superflex league, on average, everybody's going to have 3 to 4 starting quarterbacks. So when you go to sell a quarterback, there may not be buyers. Most of the time, there aren't. So what you're going to see a lot in those 10-team Superflex leagues, and I get these questions every single year, is, hey, man, I have 4 starting quarterbacks right now. I know I'm supposed to take C.J. Stroud over Jackson Smith and Jigba. Just nobody's going to trade for a quarterback in my league. I'm not even going to be able to start C.J. Stroud. The only guy at this pick can make a difference is JSN. So in terms of like the overall trade market, and I don't play in any 10-team Superflex leagues. This is just an aggregation of thousands of trades I've seen and maybe 1,000 startups from those over the past few seasons, but there's a massive difference in terms of the trade market that you see in a 12-team Superflex league versus a 10, just like how you would play in a 14-team Superflex format versus a 12,
So we got that question earlier, the team that had Justin Fields, Justin Herbert, and Anthony Richardson in a 10-team. And that's exactly what
and Stroud.
If it's a 10-team league, you're not going to get nearly as much for those quarterbacks. Now, of course, the guys at the very top end, like Mahomes, Allen, are just such difference makers in terms of the raw points per game you're going to get from another replaceable starting quarterback. But once you get past that and you're looking at like Geno Smith, Daniel Jones, those guys are, I don't want to say free, but their value may be closer to a 1 quarterback 12-team league than a Superflex 12-team league, depending on the 10-team league that you're in.
They are. If you're in a 10-team Superflex and you're rolling out Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, and Derek Carr, you have nothing. The only way that team beats you is they find somebody to trade them an upgrade, which is why you get these questions where it's, if I have Fields, Richardson, and Herbert in a 10-team, I don't trade them because what I'm trading away is dinging my advantage more than almost any value I could get back, right?
Yeah.
Because every team in the league is going to have enough QBs to get by. So why am I handing them essentially a potential difference maker at a position where there is no scarcity? So I think that is a good point here. But let me ask you, Mason, if you were doing a 10-team, wouldn't you prioritize getting the positional advantage at QB almost even more at the very top for that exact reason?
I think in theory, yes, but the way it plays out, I think no. In terms of like if you're going through and you're in those rookie drafts and you're all of a sudden going to be able to take Anthony Richardson behind Jahmyr Gibbs and maybe one of them, I think it's like hard to justify in my mind taking Justin Fields or even Lamar Jackson over Jefferson or Chase in that format.
Gotcha.
Like pick 7, I'm going Justin Jefferson in that league, and I could easily be wrong. Like I said, I haven't personally played in a 10-team league. I don't know why that many people do, but just from the thousands of trades and rookie drafts I've seen from that format, it's It's like you're blending a one quarterback and a super flex lead together. I completely agree. Like those elite level quarterbacks are still giving you such an advantage over the rest of the position. It's a weird balancing act that it's hard to answer, to be honest.
Right. Let's put up this this super chat here. Palmer FC, thank you very much. I'm going to read this and then I'm going to get up and turn down the thermostat. I'm freezing to death. But here, let me read this first. 10 team, 1 QB, start 8. What's the better trade? DK, ETN, and JMO for Jefferson and Swift. So that's one option. Or ETN and JMO plus Deshaun Watson for Amon-Ra St. Brown, Elijah Mitchell, and the 109. Trying to upgrade at wide receiver in a shallow league and tier down at running back. Breece Hall and A.J. Dillon, my other RBs. What do you think there, guys?
In a 10-team start 8, the team that the trade that gets me Justin Jefferson. I don't give a shit about anything else in this deal. Period. Everything else is just at cannon fodder. Give me Justin Jefferson. That's really the only player that honestly matters here.
Yeah, so you don't like the what was the other deal? Swift or ETN and JMO and Watson for ARSB and Elijah Mitchell on the 109?
Don't you laugh? How does some of these deals even get formed in a 10-team start 8? You know what I mean?
It's like start 8 and dudes just keep piling on mediocre after mediocre asset. Here, you want JMO? I'll give you JMO. You can get the 109 too. You want that? No, yeah, give me the Jefferson deal.
Yeah, I mean, if you're an actual contender and you're playing in a 10-team, one quarterback start 8, Jameson Williams is not even a starter. Like, you know what I mean? ETN's a starter, but he's not a league winner.
Yeah. It's weird because sometimes you have to train people that are new to Dynasty and they play in these. Because a lot of people that start, they start with the 10-team start 9, 10-team start 10. Like they start in shallower leagues. Like rarely are you going, I'm joining my first Dynasty league and it's a 14-team start 12. You know what I mean? But you have to train them that a lot of times the way you should be thinking is, your league better than Mason, better than Shane, better than I. The fact you could get a deal like this done to where someone would actually give you Justin Jefferson, and they're giving you DeAndre Swift, so you could see a path where he's actually as good or better than Travis Etienne. You're just getting thrown into the trade.
Dude, I didn't even notice DeAndre Swift there. It doesn't matter. Like literally, I could have thrown Swift on the other side. Here, I'll give you Swift and Etienne and JMO.
But this is where we miss it sometimes as content creators. We're so obsessed with the numbers and math. But in a league like this is the kind of league where if you just accumulate assets over time, right? Like you accumulate that extra JMO, you get that extra DeAndre Swift, you may find the fish in your league that goes, you know what? I'll give you Jamar Chase. You just got to give me 5 pieces. And you're going, okay, I got JMO for nothing. I drafted Rashee Rice in the second, but you think they don't matter until this trade is in front of you and you're like, oh my gosh, this is exactly why I acquired an entire team of flexible pieces.
And when you make that trade and dude or dudette gets roasted in the chat, they're going to come back. Yeah, but I got 4 starters for 1. Like I clearly came out ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for that super chat. Palmer FC dropped a $20 one last time too. Thank you very much. So let's go to this one here. This was a 4:30 p.m. post, so nice and early. So it's not a super. It makes it on the screen anyway. 12-team Superflex start 10 PPR 1.5 tight end premium. Send Ramondre and a 24 second for Chubb and a 24 first. I'm a strong contender. The 24 first could end up being early to mid. Yes, please.
Did I answer this earlier? I feel like I answered this earlier. And
did you unstar it and be like, at ND, yes. Do the Chubb in 24 first side?
What are you talking about? Yeah, like this is not even a question.
Yeah, man. Like, what do I always say about running backs? 95% of them are, what can you do for me in the right now? I don't care how old you are. I don't care what your age is or what your contract status is. Like, both these running backs are in a 1-year window for me. So the fact that I'm going from a second to a first in July, like we've talked all show about the flexibility that first could give you, especially if it's truly an early to mid first. I mean, what are you doing? Upgrading. And you're really not upgrading, right? Like you're upgrading in years by what, 2 years? But are you really upgrading from Ramondre to Nick Chubb and you're giving away a risky mid first? Like this is how the team that gets the Chubb in the first side absolutely just wails on the other team in 6 months.
Let's do this then. So it's an obvious, yes, send Ramondre and a 24 second for Chubb and a 24 first. What else would you add on, though, if that doesn't get it done? I mean, it's a start 10, 12-team Superflex. Would you throw in, like very easily a Hollywood, for example? So Ramondre Hollywood at 24 second for Chubb and 24 first. What could he or she, ND, let's be honest, I'm assuming a he. What else would you add if you needed to get that Chubb side?
I mean, I'll just say this. I think one of the biggest edges you can still get in Dynasty is be able to spot these bad picks that are masked as semi-contenders now, because we're starting to see a trend where, it doesn't matter who's in the next year's class. If it's a top 3 or 4 pick, it's a top 20 startup pick. That's just how it's going to be valued. So if I can find these mid-tier picks of teams that think they are a Ramondre Stevenson upgrade from Nick Chubb from turning their first from a mid to late, then I'll bet against that team. So if you can spot those teams, there's still an edge to be able to do that. And if you hit on that pick, you won this trade by like 5x.
Let's go to this one here. Let's lighten it up a little bit. Colin Crandall asks, thank you for the super chat, Colin. What has been y'all's biggest bonehead move in Dynasty? I have like 700 answers here, and I'm going to be on Trade Addicts the end of this month, and I know that's like one of their questions, like what's the best and worst trades you've ever made? But what comes to mind here, Shane? Let's go to you first, sir.
I traded Ezekiel Elliott for like Wolf Fuller and Corey Coleman, and the names don't even matter because it was 2 of the wide receivers out of that class. But that's basically what it was. Maybe it was Josh Stockton. I don't know. But I said what I said. I said, yeah, but I'm getting 2 starters. It's my first Dynasty league. I know what the fuck I was doing. Meanwhile, Zeke comes out and he's like, sure, I'll be the running back 1 for the next year. And never forgot that. That's like the one trade I could never forget.
Yep.
Ranking Trey Lance over Chase and Fields.
Hey, whatever. That counts. That counts. Scott, you got something on your mind where the process failed?
See, this is probably what drove me into process, because these were just absolutely egregious. So you go back to basically picking a ton of shares of Mitch Trubisky and Deshaun Kaiser over Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes in the same draft.
Right,
so there's that. The second was I needed a quarterback in a Superflex. It was one of my first Superflex leagues where I actually needed to trade for a QB. I traded Todd Gurley before 2017 season for Jay Cutler. And, of course, Todd Gurley just ripped off like 2 massive warp seasons after that, and I had Jay Cutler. So those two just stick in my mind. The good thing is those were more than 5 years ago, so I can't think of any more egregious than that. So maybe I've gotten better in that time.
Yeah, I've made some brutal ones. I will throw up again. I gave up A.J. Brown for Henry Ruggs and what turned out to be the, I believe, 107 in 2023. That's brutal.
And then pre-draft, you drafted Will Levis with the 107.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I would have done the same, my man. I would have done the same.
Yeah. So let's go here. Let's go to. So I'll be honest. We'll see if this is like how this question goes. If this one's first and then the next one's second. But Simon Joseph, sleeper name Smig00, League Baker's Dozen, 50 players in startup auction, got QBs, can't wait for a warp series. How do I best fill skill positions? And thank you, by the way, Simon. Second part is maybe that's too deep of a question. I thought maybe Scott could just glance at my graph and say fade tight ends if you don't have Kelsey, and something equally short and sweet about running backs. So I don't know if we can like pull up the warp tool right now and all that stuff. Let's not go there. But like, do you have, Simon? We can take this. We can take this offline. Do you have any thoughts though, based on what he said here?
There's not enough info to really give an actual answer. I'll say DM me your sleeper ID. I'll send you the warp graph, and you kind of have to eyeball it from there. Sorry, you can't really look at the board and go through it. You know what I mean? But I'll send you the warp graph if you want to send me your sleeper ID. So just DM it to me. Yeah,
and it's at Charles Chill FFB, Simon. We want to we'll hook you up with that. Thank you, Scott, in advance for fielding that. Okay, let's hide that there. Okay, let's go to Shane. Say this name.
Haffet Martinez.
Definitely not. Scott, say this name.
Hefe. It's Hefe.
Jaffet? Mason,
the J
thoughts?
is silent.
Mr. Martinez.
There you go. Yeah, we'll call him Mr. Martinez or Mrs. Martinez. No, you can tell it's a Mr. 12-team Superflex, start 8, 2 QB. Okay, so is it a Superflex?
Tight end premium, I'm assuming.
Yeah, but it's like start 8 and then 2 QB. But okay, let's just go 12-team Superflex, start 8, tight end premium, Stroud, Jordan Love, Dobbins, Khalil Herbert, Komet, Ridley. So we're naming some trash cans here. JSN, Pickens, got 324 firsts, all 3 most likely top 3, full rebuild. Is there a second? Yeah, it was an orphan. Okay, so it looks like Mr. Martinez is asking us for thoughts on what to do here. Man, having potentially the top 3 in 2024, you're going Caleb, freaking Drake May, and Marvin Harrison Jr. at this point.
I'm telling you right now, there's 0% chance he actually has top 3.
Yeah, there's no way. There's no way. One of them's going to be like 106. It's going to be 101, 103, 106.
It's going to, no, you know what'll happen to the poor guy? It's going to be, what is it? 12 team, 110, 111, and 112.
Well, assume one of his is his own, so he has control of at least.
Yeah.
If one of them is your own pick, which I assume it is, you got to do everything you can to get that pick to the bottom. I mean, is there a player on the roster, maybe JSN, that you wouldn't move? JSN and Stroud?
Literally burn this down. If it's a start 8-2 quarterback format,
right.
25% of your starting lineup requirements at the quarterback position, you should expect like 30%, 35% of your QB production to account for your entire starting lineup. The only thing that matters in this format is grabbing 2 elite level quarterbacks. So it's the only thing that matters.
So you got to do everything you can to get the 101 then, basically. You got to have as much control of that draft next year. You cannot mess around and end up 103, 105, 110 or something like that.
And also in such a shallow format, someone like Dobbins, Herbert, Komet, or Pickens, those players will never move the needle and never actually win your league. You know what I mean?
It's
in
so,
a start 11,
so
sure they can be useful, but in a start 8, if you are a true contender, they're nothing. Throw them away and just try to package up to get as many early firsts as you can.
Yeah, I mean it is an orphan, and oftentimes orphans need some love. But yeah, I mean I'm kicking as many of that package as much as I can to even get a 2025 first or whatever. This is a long-term play here, obviously. And a 12-team start 8.
Shane, welcome to the show.
Shane, where did you go?
Where did you go,
Shane?
Well, he said he had 3. He said he had 324 first, so I went to go look up his roster on Dynasty Daddy to see if I could make a trade for him, but I couldn't see anything, so I had to come back.
No, okay. Let's keep rolling here. Let's go to. We've got one star, and I have no idea what I'm going to call that person. Okay,
I got it. I do.
No. Here, I'll put up Manny here. Flocking hammers, love it. Hi, fellas, no questions tonight, just vibing. Keep up the good work, y'all. Hey, thanks, Manny. I'm sure obviously follows you too, Mason, but he's one of our OGs here. Good dude.
He's a long time member of the flock.
Yeah.
I think
cool.
Probably from like 2019, 2020.
Sweet. Yeah. He wrote in the comments earlier. It was some like roundabout way of how he found us through you, through Scott. Good dude. All of our subs are awesome, man. I mean, considering I got a freaking hammer tattooed on my forearm for our subs, they must be cool, or I'm an idiot, right?
Your subs must be a lot better than mine. I have no tattoos on me.
Or you're less crazy.
Or you're just smarter.
Yeah.
or you're not just randomly posting a poll when you're talking to someone with tattoos at midnight at a concert. That's not what happened, though. Okay, let's go here to. All right, let's go to Zhao. Sorry if I jacked up your name. And this is this is some different currency here, but either way, thank you very much. I'm trying to do some leverage deals, but I think I may be exaggerating a bit. Superflex 12-team start 10. I made 2 deals. The first one was Mike Williams and Nico Collins. Okay, Mike Williams for Nico Collins in a second, it looks like. Love that one, right? Let's just address that one first. Like, fine. No?
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of whatever.
I'm okay with that one. Yeah. I'm fine with
and
that
then
one.
The second one was Joe Mixon for penny and a second. Am I going too low?
I'll just say this. I'm just going to say this about leverage trading. The most important part about leverage trading is you need to evaluate the two pieces, in this case, Nico Collins versus Mike Williams, Joe Mixon versus Rashad Penny. Where do they fit in my lineup? But you could argue in a 12-team start 10, Mike Williams is absolutely replaceable. Does he have maybe more like week-to-week upside? Potentially. But I'm okay with that first trade because you're probably trading for the second player, third player, fourth player off your bench. I'm fine with that. The second trade is where you're sitting here going, my roster construction better be spot on to do a deal like that. And then I better have a league where I know that second I can turn around and buy something back if I want. So I think the second deal, I get it. Mixon's value isn't that high, but you're getting to a point where it has to be a very specific roster where I would do a trade like this. So first one I'm fine with. Second one, I don't love the second one. I don't love the second one.
I don't love the second one at all.
Stop saying I don't love. Say you hate it. Just say you hate it. Have some conviction.
Shane, I'm trying to people take these leverage trades. They take the word leverage and they think if I'm getting two pieces for one, then fine. But I don't trade a quarter for two nickels.
Well, then you need to be explicit. You need to be explicit. I hate this trade. It was a bad trade. It was a very bad trade. And also, those are rupees, and that is the currency of India.
Random.
Real quick, can I ask, when you view a trade like this, do you value Nico Collins or Rashad Penny at all? I kind of view it as like I'm trading Joe Mixon for a second round pick.
Yeah. And I mean, Mike Williams, Nico Collins, we just see that as sure, why not? Because
I mean, if you look at the historical warp at receiver in a 12-team start 10, you can justify Mike Williams and Nico Collins are in a similar range, and neither of them matter, to Mason's point. So I've essentially created a second-round pick, which if I have the right league, I can throw a second in another trade and get something down the road that helps me more. The first one I'm fine with because it's receiver. The second one, there's a big difference in I don't care about Joe Mixon's dynasty value. I care about what's he projected to do in 2023. And can I replace that with a second? So, yeah, that's where it differs at positions here.
Yeah, I mean, just for me, I feel like I don't know. It's probably a blind spot on my part, but I see Nico Collins in a trade and my eyes just glaze over, just like, hey, am I selling Mike Williams for a second rounder?
Yep.
Okay, let's go to Banish. Mason, Shane is always our stud when it comes to starring super chats during these live streams. Banish 3D gave us a $5. Look at Shane. I love watching Shane when I say his name and say something about Shane. It's very his expressions are great. Banish 3D says it's $5 super chat. Shane is going to try to bird dog the actual super chat. That was it, huh? Just a donation. Thank you, Banish 3D. We appreciate that. If there was a question, try to post in the comments and we'll look for it. Let's go to Tristan Matthews here. Thank you for the super chat. We got a 3-parter here. 12-team start 10 Superflex PPR 1.5 tight end premium 6 point for QBs. 2 of 3 is 11th round of our startup and didn't break any rules. Current roster: Herbert, Anthony Richardson, Kyler, Lance. No running backs. DK, Ayuk, Godwin, Hollywood, Deontay, couple others, and no tight end. 3 firsts in 24. Feel like I'm tanking this year since I may only have one QB to start the season. Is AR and Kyler for Burrow or Mahomes too much? What move should I be making? I feel like I would I have to read through and see how trash candy the team is, but I feel like I would immediately give Anthony Richardson and Kyler for Mahomes. Immediately.
Oh, in a heartbeat. And I want to correct this. We for sure at least have one extra starting quarterback on this roster.
What is it? Is Lance on here? Nice.
To Mason's point, though, starting with Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Trey Lance is almost the perfect QB3 because it's lowest common denominator with value upside. I wish Tristan would have said orb instead of no running backs. That would have made the question a lot better. But I don't think here's my thing. You build a team structurally pretty well. You have 324 firsts. I don't like to just tank when I've already built a team like this. I'm going to half-ass it at running back. I'm going to go as cheap as possible. This is where I'm going to try to get the deals like the person prior to us got. This would be one of the scenarios where I'd be like, all right, how can I accumulate as many shitty running backs as possible to try to win on this team? But I'm not just punting this team because I don't have running backs. Like, I'm going out there and trying to give it a go, especially if I trade for Mahomes. Like, I'm already built to win. If I don't win, fine. I have 324 first, but I don't love the 0 running backs and go, well, I don't have any, so I'm just going to tank. You don't tank with Justin Herbert, Mahomes, and these receivers.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever the answer, is tanking because your running backs are bad. Like, that's literally never been the answer. And yeah, I'll add Mahomes to this roster, and then you have 3 first to make other moves to upgrade the rest of your roster.
So Scott did star the Banished 3D super chat. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Banished 3D. It was a 12-team Superflex, start 11, start 2 tight ends. Like it. 2.0 premium. Devi PPR. I've got a monster team, but I'm in a bind at QB as Josh Allen and T-Law and no others. Give AJ Brown, get Stroud, Reed, a projected early 24 first. Thoughts?
I mean, bro, how are you in a bind at QB with Josh Allen and Trevor Lawrence?
Is it a triple flex? Which I still don't know. It's still the wrong use of the terminology. Right. But what are you talking about? Did you have Allen and T-Law? You're not in a bind at quarterback. Like, don't make this trade. No, it's a horrible trade. It's a stupid trade.
So yeah, we'll let everybody chat here. But what are you doing then? Maybe like just trying to like throw a second at some like meh quarterback, or try to get like a Jimmy G like on the cheap, or are you fine just rolling with this for the time being?
I'm assuming he's got another quarterback on his roster, but if he doesn't, go get Derek Carr, go get Matt Stafford, go get someone for a year. Who cares? It's a yearly thing. You only need to worry about your backup, your third quarterback every year. You can go get a new one.
Mason, do you care about a third QB on this team?
Not right now. I mean, it's freaking July 11th. Well, you're not submitting a starting lineup. I mean, every question that we've been asked that's a bad trade is someone worrying about submitting a starting lineup on July 11th.
Yep. And plus, he's getting back to early first, which we know nothing about. We know nothing about the Devi. Absolutely no context. If you're saying early first and it's not Devi, then I'm smashing this trade. I don't really care about, because it's good value, right? Stroud in the early first for AJ Brown, but with the Devi, there's no rush, man. No rush.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's honestly a little bit of the redraft mindset coming in. Like, I can even see it with like the views of my channel. Like, the redraft channel is really taking off right now about this time of year. So you can tell that people are just done with Dynasty, if that makes sense. We've talked about what things are going to look like 5 years down the road for the past 6 months. You know what I mean? And now I think everybody's ready to transition to redraft, and everybody's starting to think like, okay, what is my team going to look like week 1, week 2, week, you know? I think that there's, over the past few weeks, been this like fundamental shift in how people are going through and approaching the roster.
Yeah, and it seems like Dynasty as a whole, and maybe I'm speaking out of my you know what, but it seems like Dynasty as a whole is getting more like almost more redrafty in terms of, I don't care if Derrick Henry is on my Dynasty roster, or like Joe Mixon. People are like willing to just like, hey, I should contend now because there's so much variance. And it just seems like such a shorter window. People aren't looking at these long builds. It's like, just give me Travis Kelce over Kyle Pitts. Let's smash and go from there. You know?
Can I give you my theory on this?
Yeah.
I don't think it's people changing their strategy. I think it's the average Dynasty player is completely different than 5 years ago. I think we played in a Dynasty community from about 2011 to about 2019 that were all the same people. And I think now it's a completely different crowd, and it's not some niche thing anymore. And it's all these people that have played redraft for the past 10 years that are now coming in because of the risk of sound like a complete ass and way full of myself. And I know, but channels like myself of converting all these redraft people to Dynasty people, as well as Sleeper coming on and actually creating a usable interface for new people rather than those new people having to be onboarded to MFL. So I don't think it's like a fundamental change in the strategy of a Dynasty player. I think just the overall Dynasty community is completely different than it was 5 years ago.
Let's go to, good point for sure. Let's go to Cracker Hands. Thank you, Cracker Hands, for the super chat. Cute dog. Looks like a very cute dog. 10 team, 1 QB, start 10, 2 tight ends. Did you bring in all these 2 tight end people here, Mason? You said that's your format of choice. Is the whole flock into these 2 tight end things? He's got Jones, Olave, London, Ayuk, Judy, Sky, Kamara, Penny, McBride, Jelani Woods. It's rough to start 2 tight end, right? Sell picks or actually draft players this year. Strategy?
I mean, what picks do we have?
Is there a second part to this question? There's not.
I don't
I'm
know.
being facetious.
Okay, so let's say, I mean, this team looks like it should have some picks. Let's just say, I mean, right? Like,
yes,
it looks
Let's
bad,
just
so
say-
hopefully it has some picks.
let's just say 224 first, his or hers,
Mhm.
projected top 3, and then maybe has another one. Maybe being a jerk right now, but I'm just gonna guess. Looking at this team, has got minimum 224 first.
I'm guessing he has some 23 picks because I don't think they've had their 23 draft yet. Because he purposely named Penny, McBride, and Jelani Woods, and not one rookie.
Yeah,
I would
not
name
123. You're right.
30 or so rookies before any of those guys. Do you have the 101 or the 102? I'd like to make those picks. The 103, I'd like to make that. Everything after that, I see 104, I'll go Anthony Richardson. So any.
Uh-oh, is he stuck? I was like, oh, is that me too?
No, he's back.
Shane, you said something epic there, but you froze. So
When did I
missed
freeze?
it. Like
Before
early
you
on.
talked.
Yeah, early on.
Very early on?
No.
No.
Just say this. This team's not winning this year. I mean, you're going to get smashed at quarterback. You're probably going to lose at almost every other position. You're starting 2 second-year tight ends in a 2 tight end league. We need to know what picks, but basically what Shane said. If you have top 3 picks, I'm fine making them. But other than that, you got to look for upgrades. Team's not winning.
Can I talk about like going back to the best ball question real quick and how you can utilize that? Best ball ADP extremely efficient. We know that. So what you need to do if you're going to try to identify right now, if you're a rebuild or a contender, this will point you in the general direction. And I don't think you should pick your path right now. I think you should keep your flexibility, wait until week 4, week 5, look at how your team's performing, look at the overall league, and then make your decision then when we have way more information at our disposal. But if you were to just go through and say, okay, my quarterback's Daniel Jones. Where is he being drafted? Oh, he's the quarterback 15. So I don't even have a quarterback 1. Oh, I have Olave, London, Ayuk, Jerry Jeudy. Okay, so I have wide receiver 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm average here. But then I go look at my running backs. I'm rolling with a running back 3 and a running back 4. I'm toast. I look at my tight ends. I'm rolling with a tight end 3 and tight end 4 in a 10-team format. So if you just go through and say, okay, if the market is in the right ballpark with these players, you can get an overall sense of how your team projects to be.
I like it. So thank you, Cracker Hands. Much appreciated. Okay. I am curious as to what picks he had. But okay, so let's see. Ugly Kid Joe. 10-team Superflex start 8, contending team. Allen and Herbert at QB. That's nice. Trade Herbert for Richardson and Gibbs. It's a half PPR, 4-point per pass touchdown. That's interesting. Wait, 4-point passing touchdown and 6-point pass TD.
He's meaning rushing or receiving.
Okay, yeah. Pass and then 6-point for rush TD. Is that how you're reading it? Yeah. The 4-point, when I saw that, I was like,
let's kick this to Mason.
Yeah,
let's kick this to Mason. You're doing this in a 10-team with what you said earlier.
10-team start 8, there's no reason to. Like,
yeah.
10-team start 8. Jahmyr Gibbs is a high-end running back 2 this next year's. Like you say, he's the running back 14. Does that win you your league? No, you probably lose out on the points going from Herbert to Richardson in comparison to whoever your replacement running back would be.
And it's a contending team. Like that's a big part of it for me too. Anyway,
if it was a rebuilding team, would you do it?
I mean, if I were a trash team and it's a 4-point per passing touchdown, I just wanted to make a big bet on Richardson and then have Gibbs as a trade piece. If someone thinks that he's actually going to be a good play and a half PPR. Yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts, Shane? We'll move to you.
I'm clearly scared of Richardson more than anyone else.
Yeah.
I think that's the common theme. So no, there's not a chance in hell I'm doing this. I mean, it's just the potential for me trading an elite quarterback for a guy that's out of the league in 2 years and a super version of Theo Riddick. No, I'm good.
Yeah. It's. I mean, when you look at Allen and Herbert, just don't touch that lots of times, right?
Yeah, I'm willing to trade Herbert. It's just I need a little more certainty at particularly the quarterback position. Like the running back, I don't want to. don't want my trade hinging on what I did, what the running back that I got.
Well, going back to what we were talking about earlier in this format, if it's a start 8, 10 team league, 25% of your starting lineup requirements are quarterback. 30% of your lineup production minimum on a week-to-week basis will be at the quarterback position. In this format, it's the only thing that matters.
Yeah, I was just going to say, this is about the best 2-for-1 deal you could get, and we're still declining it. So shy of you basically upgrading at quarterback from Herbert, which is going to be tough. There really isn't a move that you would make here that's probably on the table, because no one's offering more than this for Herbert, most likely. So I'm good with what Mason said. Just keep the advantage.
Okay, go ahead.
Real quick, Drew. I don't hate Gibbs. I was talking about worst case scenarios. Worst case scenarios. I like Gibbs a lot.
Yep. Okay, let's do this one here from Jack. This is a pay to brag. So Mason, we require if somebody's going to give us a super chat with a stack team that they have to pay. We're not going to put it up. They have to pay to brag. 12 team, 1 QB, start 10, PPR, have a stupid stack team. I love that. Burrow, Bijan, Pollard, Madison, Jefferson, Chase, Waddle, Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra, Devontae, London, and Pitts. This is a team. Okay, is this a team to send Bijan for 3 firsts plus Connor and Dalvin, or Brees and an early first? No future capital whatsoever. I know it's like super. Where is it? No, it's like it's pretty shallow. 12 team, 1 QB, start 10. But I mean, I would sell Bijan for 3 firsts and what was that here? Sorry, for 3 firsts and Connor and Dalvin, right? Or Brees and an early first, that preferably. But what do you think, guys?
But I guess my question is, you literally have the top 3 assets in a 1 QB dynasty. You also have Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle, Tony Pollard, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devontae Smith, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Joe Burrow. You literally have half of the top 25 players.
Is this a way to keep it going, though, Scott? You love to look at your contending rosters, your best rosters, and see, okay, can I sell anything on this team? Get some value to be able to keep pushing this around.
The Brees and the Brees in the early first would be the one I'd be considering. Yeah. I'm not interested in 3 random first. James Conner, Dalvin Cook. Like, you can miss me with the 5-for-1, unless it's just a league where I can absolutely go with those 5 pieces and just crush somebody else in a trade and upgrade, and essentially pay half of that to upgrade back to somebody as good as Bijan or close to it. So Brees in early first, but I mean, if you said, nope, I'm just rolling with this roster, then I'd be fine with that too.
Yeah, I mean, this is a 1 quarterback format. Those first round picks are just worth a lot less.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay, let's go here. Let's go to Palmer FC had a follow-up question. Can you give a quick rundown? Thank you, Palmer. Quick rundown of roster construction in a 10-team, 1 QB start 8, no tight end premium. I always see the 12-team Superflex roster constructions, but what's the big difference in my league?
So I wrote like a 100-page like dynasty research book on like actual roster construction and optimizing for your league settings. And a big thing is like the fewer starting lineup requirements that you have, especially if it's going to be in a 1 quarterback format, if you can't start, say, 6 wide receivers on a week-to-week basis, 7 wide receivers, 8 wide receivers, inherently those onesie positions like tight end is actually going to be a little bit more valuable. So I'd say like one minute difference that you want to have in this format is I would actually place a greater emphasis on grabbing an elite level tight end. If you look at the percentage of their starting lineup output it's going to account for, like I would rather have an elite level tight end in this format where wide receiver depth does not matter. A big thing is wide receiver depth is not important at all in this league in particular. I would rather have an elite tight end here than like a 12-team start 11 tight end.
Yep. I mean, you run the warp says the exact same thing. You run the warp on this and it flattens off so quickly at the other positions. You're like, wow, there's not a lot of good players that matter here. And it's true. And you'll actually see the shallower the league. He doesn't say how many roster spots there are, but I'm guessing in a 10-team start 8, it's probably like 20-man rosters, 22-man rosters. You'll actually see where essentially like the back half of the league that's on rosters is no different than the top 50 players on waivers. They're literally the same. So ever looking at that 12th player on your team and placing any value at all, the only value you'd ever place to your bench would be can I scam other people in my league into taking these assets for something that's more flexible that I can upgrade at in the future? That's it. The players literally do not matter.
Don't matter.
The difference between Sky Moore and Khalif Raymond is meaningless. I mean, seriously, it's meaningless.
Yeah.
Absolutely meaningless. So just play it that way. I don't know if Shane has any thoughts, but it's literally, I mean, if there's a format where you just literally sell your soul for hammers, it's here.
Start 8.
10-team start 8. Sell your soul for hammers.
Yeah, like, I mean, you guys can run all these fancy calculations and compulations and shit, but it's fucking start 8. Like, Jesus Christ, you have to.
So you're giving 19 first.
I'm overpaying for everything. I have 8 starters.
Yep. Okay.
One starter is worth more in an 8-team league than it is in a 10-team league. I'm not great at math, but I know that.
So we have Florida State hate. So we've got a Gator who's asking this question, perhaps. Thank you for the super chat. Dynasty 10-team, 2 QB, half PPR, start 9. Quarterbacks are Herbert, Goff, Tua. Running backs are Walker, Pierce, Penny, Khalil. Wide receivers, DK, Terry McLaurin, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Hollywood, JMO. Picks wise, 107, 208, a 24 first, no 24 second. And the trade is get Cousins, Tyreek Hill, Chubb, a 24 second for Goff, Walker, JMO, and the 107. Does that make his team too old?
Man, can you survive without JMO, though? That's really ridiculous.
I'm still recovering from trying to process everything in this trade. So it's a 4 for 4. So Kirk Cousins and Jared Goff, I would lean Kirk Cousins very slightly. But if you just want to wash those in a 10-team, 2 QB, who cares? I'm fine with washing those. I mean, Nick Chubb, Ken Walker, same thing. Don't care about age. So for me, I'd take the Chubb side on that. Tyreek Hill and JMO. Shane, is that close?
No, that's not particularly close. No.
And a 107 in for a 24 second. I mean, that's really the only part in this trade where I think you're losing. If you want to take it, fine. You probably have a better chance of winning with the side that you're getting. But I see where he's coming from. Like, can he get more? Can he get something different? I don't know. Process this one, Mason.
Yeah, I got 3 words into it and then I stopped reading.
I mean, but you brought up a good point there at the end there, Scott. Like, all right, what can I combine to get 1 greater asset, 2 greater assets? But like Hill and Chubb is a pretty good upgrade over JMO and Ken Walker.
I mean, it's a 10-team start 9. So again, What is he trading away? He's trading away maybe some name cachet,
right? But
that's it. So I mean, give me the get side. Go take it. Go win the league. Go for it.
Yeah, he's not even trading one guy that's starting on his roster, and I guarantee JMO shouldn't even be on a roster. Get out.
Okay, thank you for that super chat. It looks like our friend Jow. I'm sorry, I jacked that up again. Another 5 here. Do you know if there was a question attached, or did he just love our answer so much?
He loved our answer, but he also did specify that he's actually Brazilian, not Indian. So I was a little off.
Yeah. Did you look at the name? You thought that was like an Indian name?
I am not good with spelling.
You're not good with spelling. Fair enough. But thank you for that. Thank you for that super. So we have Cracker Hands with a 3-parter here. Thank you for the super chat. It's a 1 QB 10-team PPR start 10. Daniel Jones, Kamara, Penny, London, Olave, Ayuk, Judy, Sky, McBride. Did we do this one? Woods. I feel like we did another one where it was like Sky Moore, McBride, and Jelani Woods were on a team.
No, it's just that everybody drafted them.
Is this Robert Woods anyway, I guess? Anyway.
No, it's Jelani.
Okay, so McBride, Jelani Woods, and Taysom Hill, I take it? Yep. 105, 109, 201, 205, 306. And the third part is sell all picks for wide receiver depth in a rebuild, or take the picks and wait. So again, the picks are the 105, 109, 201, 05, and a third. And it's a 10-team 1 QB start 10.
The problem is all of those picks are, I'm just praying they turn into something that I can
trash.
use for more. Yeah. So it's a 10-team start 10. This is tough. This is a middling roster with a bunch of undesirable picks. So, I mean, I'd be fine shopping them. Can you find somebody in your league that gives you consolidation deals? Or more importantly, can you kick these to the future to where you just have better basically lottery shots at getting better picks because these are all picks where once you make the pick, you're drafting pretty much a useless player.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen the trades in small leagues, small 10 teams. For some reason, people want a bunch of picks. Sure, go give them all your picks and Sky Moore. And was there a Jerry Jeudy in there? I feel like there was a Jerry Jeudy in there.
Yeah, I think there was next to Jelani.
Yeah, let's see if you can get the 5-for-1 for a wide receiver that actually moves the needle.
Mason, can I ask you a question here on so one player in particular, because we get lots of questions about JMO, obviously. Where's your head at on JMO?
I've never liked Jameson Williams. I mean, it wasn't a strong prospect from a fantasy football perspective. Like, if you're looking at how Jameson Williams will win in the NFL, he'll win by creating space for Amon-Ra St. Brown and win by creating space underneath for other players. I just don't see how he ever turns into a true difference maker in fantasy football. I think he'd be a good NFL wide receiver, but from a fantasy football perspective, I think a lot of people saw him in a national title game and for whatever reason have convinced themselves that he's already something.
So are you not buying into his 41 yards per reception out of his rookie year?
Yeah, we had one show where Shane was trashing JMO, and man, did he and the show get lit up on that one. But yeah, I mean, look at where he is now, right?
And I'm 100% saddened that he got suspended for 6 games, because then when he's awful next year, that's going to be everyone's excuse for him, is that he was out the first 6 weeks because he's a degenerate gambler.
And that's what happened. It was like a ball don't lie situation. Like a week or two after that, he got the suspension, and Shane was probably fist bumping and like went back into the comments.
No, I want him to play because he's not going to matter in fantasy, and I just wanted to go back to those, but now I can't even do that. Now I have to wait till 2025 because everyone's going to give him some other excuse in 2024.
Well, as Scott always says, shout out to Ty. Thank you for the super chat. It's Dynasty Trades in 5 times Mason Dodd equals fire. Where's the value in stashing a projected non-producing young asset in Dynasty? Say Tajay Kendre. How does this change between lineup and best ball? Thanks, Ty.
Well, I mean, here's the reality, because Kendre Miller lit up my timeline, and I had to go do some stuff before this stream, so I haven't really got to check back. But I guess it was controversial to say liquidate Kendre Miller for a reroll that I can use at a later time because he's Kendre Miller. And it's just, for me, in lineup leagues especially, these guys are just part of my roster construction cog. That's it. I'm not looking at them going their talent or their profile or is anything more than a piece that I have that fits into my construction for the season. Hopefully they give me a couple weeks. The expectation with a guy like Kendre or Tajay Spears is they have a pocket of time during multiple seasons where they can give me startable weeks. That's it. That's the expectation. Not that they become Dameon Pierce, not that they become Rashad White, not that they become the outlier where they turn into somebody that leads a backfield. Like, those days are gone in the NFL. These guys are drafted to simply be like mercenaries that are part of a backfield. So when something happens to their value, like, what's the point of stashing them if you can get a reroll? If you get a second for Kendre Miller, why are you holding them? Have some exposure in case the outlier outcome happens. But I just, what's the point of holding it? I mean, best ball, I don't even want these types of running backs in best ball. I want to aim higher. I'd rather have low-end receivers in best ball. Lineup leagues, like, this is how you get stuck. You roster any running back on a 53 in best ball leagues, and you take a bunch of zeros every week. No thanks.
Yeah, no, in Dynasty, like, I've started playing Dynasty best ball, I think, in maybe 2017 or whatever it was, and it was just, nobody understood it at that point, but all you had to do was roster 3 running backs that would cover your running back spots and then load up on 15 wide receivers. Like, there's no reason to have someone like Miller in a best ball format if you can just pivot over and grab like Tyler Lockett, if somehow you could have traded your early second round pick to get Tyler Lockett instead in the best ball format.
Well, and what happens to a running back like Kendre Miller if he doesn't produce this year? What does he become? Zamir White? Isaiah Spiller? You know, I mean, it's the same thing. Like, you see what happens when this has happened 15 times over the last 3 years. So why are you, I mean, I don't even want to say it's arrogant, but people going, oh man, Kendre Miller, he's different than those guys. Based on what? He's a running back. He's a 3rd round pick. Mm-hmm. You know, you might like him, but yeah, you have to be realistic. If a 3rd round running back, just because you like their profile, if they go to a place where their projection for this year is like, man, that guy's going to struggle to get on the field, like, you got to adjust.
Yep. Recovered Ridley Truther. Thank you very much for the super chat. One of two. in a live 14-team Superflex start 11, good for you, 1.5 tight end premium startup, got Allen at 102, used second, third, and fifth for Fields at the 109. So it looks like packaged up the second, third, and did you get other pieces though? Hopefully you didn't give up a 3-for-1 there, but got Fields at 109. Also moved up to get Kelsey and Andrews with 24 first and some other startup picks. He says, broke startup rule with the 24 first, and maybe with that Fields trade too, recovered Ridley Truther. But which general roster construction direction should I go? Next picks are in the 8th, 2 8ths and 10ths.
Can I start?
Of course, go for it.
I would probably close out Sleeper, go to YouTube and search how to build Time Machine. That way you can go back in time and try to find a way to get your 2nd, 3rd, and 5th round startup picks back.
He looks like he did get an 8th and a 10th back because he has 2 of those. So
Yeah,
okay with that if he traded up to get Justin Fields to pair with Josh Allen.
Let's assume that is the case.
I think it's the case.
Recovered Ridley Truther listens to us.
Yeah.
Again, an OG, probably of Mason's too. So yeah, let's assume that.
I like it. He's got Fields, Josh Allen, Travis Kelce, and Mark Andrews. Yeah, he traded away the 24 first, but he's essentially hoarded at the 2 spots where he could, the 2 highest warp spots pretty much in this league. He's already committed. So you're really just trying to draft points with all your other picks.
Yeah, 14 teams.
Do you think you can get away with that in this format in particular?
Do I love trading? Do I like the way he built in terms of giving up all his flexibility? No, I would have preferred to use some picks to maybe trade back and accumulate future assets. I don't need to trade up to go get Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews and give away my 24 first.
Because where I look at this is it's a 14-team start 11. You are sitting with, like you said, pretty much the most valuable stuff you can have, right? Like you're crushing it, quarterback, tight end, you have a zillion points. But then by the time you get to round 8, 10, you're looking at just replacement level players. You have to fill out 7 starting lineup spots still. And this is like round 10 of a 14-team format. This is that extra 20 picks back. You know what I mean? So I really like the idea of going and like implementing this in like a 12-team start 10, you know, but I would be worried about depth personally.
I just wish it weren't Fields for me, if it's a move where it's not Fields, but that's just because I'm scared of him. I do have a good amount of Fields exposure to go against my gut, diversify against my gut. But if it weren't Fields, for whatever reason, if it were Burrow or T-Law or something, go ahead, man.
Do you think there's a non-0% chance the Chicago Bears take a quarterback in the 2024 draft?
Definitely a non-zero.
They have the ammo.
Okay, because
yes, I do.
It's there. It's there.
I thought there was a I got roasted for this, like raked over the coals. I thought there was a non-0% chance they took Young at 1 before they traded the pick. I didn't think it was likely, but I thought it was in the range of outcomes if you look at what teams historically do. So I think if the Bears fail again, like there's a shot.
Let me ask Mason this point on that team. If that goes wrong, Fields, Allen, Kelsey, Andrews, how do you get out of it when you've already traded your 24 first? If I'm in the league with that guy, I go, I'm destroying your roster construction for you to fix this, which puts you in a really tough spot.
Kelsey will be 35 next year. Mm-hmm. I think Justin Fields is a phenomenal asset in a 1 quarterback dynasty format, in a best ball format, in so many different spots where you're chasing the highest ceiling possible, because Justin Fields could be the quarterback 1 overall in fantasy this year.
For sure.
That's a real possibility, you know. But understanding the range of outcomes where also he may not be a starting quarterback in 2024. Like he's one of the very unique, I call him like a unicorn type players where anything is on the table. I just don't like it in a format like this where replacing a quarterback starter is going to be damn near impossible. You know.
Yep.
And don't
14-team start 11.
I'd be fine with the Kelsey investment, but don't move the extra first to go get Andrews. Go with one or the other and just save yourself a little flexibility. I get why he was trying to do it. He was trying to literally cut off the rest of the league from tight end production. But if you're already in on Kelsey that early, it feels like it wasn't super smart to just double down and go for Andrews as well. Interesting.
Okay, I'm going to put this up here, and then I'm going to go find out what's going on. My door's being knocked on, even though there's a sign saying F off. So Rob Z, thank you for the super chat. 10-team Superflex, start 11, no premium. Draft in late August. Ugh. Yeah. Trade the 101, 104, 304 for T-Law and Dotson. My QBs are Tua and Kyler. Bye-bye, Hammer.
Mason can have this one because I think this is easy, right? No chance. You're not giving up Bijan and the 104 for Trevor Lawrence and Jahan Dotson in a 10-team.
Yeah, because what is Dotson here? You know what I mean?
Useless. Replacement level, below replacement level, probably. He's what you can move him for, right?
I'm trying to think of how you would change this overall format to make it make sense. It's not in a 10-team Superflex league where quarterback's going to be more replaceable.
If this was Mahomes instead of Dotson, would you do it? Or Mahomes instead of T-Law, would you do it?
Oh, 100%, yeah.
That's probably where I'm aiming because you're literally starting at the top. If every quarterback above T-Law declines, then maybe you have a discussion, but I kind of agree with you. I'll be fine holding on this.
All right, let's keep on keeping on here. Actually, let's say what's up to the crowd again. We have 513 eyeballs in here joining us on a Tuesday night. Thank you so much. And again, thank you, Mason, for joining us. Big moment for the channel to have the juice to be able to collab with you. So I appreciate that. Let's keep moving here. Oliver, is this Ollie? Yeah, this is Ollie. Okay, thank you for the super chat, man. Bryce Young, best case scenario for Dynasty. Love you guys. Thanks, man. What do you think? Best case scenario. Mason, let's start with you on the
First off, I got to interview the man at the NFL draft, so nobody harder. But
that's so cool.
Best case scenario, Lawrence?
Sorry, so best case scenario for Bryce Young.
Yeah, it's Lawrence, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay.
He's the Lawrence Burrow Herbert tier, but he's always going to get knocked for being small. So he's almost priced at his ceiling. I think he could be really good. But like legitimately in 2 years, even if he is awesome, even if he is what Joe Burrow was in his first 2 years, are you still going to take Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, and Justin Herbert if they stay what they are over Bryce Young? Like, it just doesn't feel like it's going to be hard for him to pass those guys.
Kyler got pretty high at one point, but I get the point.
Well, but he's already QB9, QB10, right? So, like, how high can he go? So, I mean, I want to have him, but I'm not sitting here going like, man, he's right there. He's just a tier below. I don't know if Shane has any different thoughts. I just don't see him passing those guys.
You don't think he can pass Burrow, Herbert, Fields?
Well, Fields, because Fields fades out. That's easy.
Okay.
I'm saying his comp, the ceiling was like he's a Burrow, Lawrence, Herbert prototype, but I don't think he passes those guys. And that's the only upside would be he literally has to pass those guys.
Yeah, no, I could see him surpassing Lawrence. I don't know about Burrow because Burrow's what I mean.
Burrow and Herbert are older. They're older than Lawrence. That's the only thing that you could argue someone may want Bryce Young in 3 years if they both hit the same numbers over the next couple seasons. Yeah. But that's his ceiling. I think his ceiling's like QB 6, 7, 8 in Dynasty, and that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Mike, thanks for the super chat. We have a 12-team Superflex, PPR Dynasty non-tight end premium. Acquired Mixon and Ramondre prior to the draft for my QB wide receiver heavy team. Am I safe or should I sell high? I'm perfectly fine with those two running backs. The way the running back market is these days, I mean, we don't know if his team sucks or not. But
he makes it sound like he's being given the option of selling high. So yes, if I can sell high on running backs, I'm going to sell high on running backs. It's pretty
well. What is sell high? We'd sell both of those guys like individually for a 24 first. What if it's a projected late, as we always say, projected late 24 first? Are you selling Ramondre for that?
I'm selling both of them for late 24 first.
I mean, you're not getting a first for Mixon, so that's out.
Well, let's trade them both together. Maybe we get 2 firsts, and Ramondre's making up the difference for Mixon there.
Sure.
Maybe that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Sure. You just have a plan because I have teams where I have a lowest common denominator, and it looks like something like this. And I've literally cultivated it to get to this point. So I'm going to be a little more strategic with the type of deal that I take. This is where I would do a leverage deal for Mixon. Can I pivot off of Mixon, get another running back where I could squint and see the range of outcomes being similar to him? Can I get AJ Dillon in a second for Mixon? I could do something like that and be fine with it, but it's not Rashad Penny in a second for Mixon, especially if I'm counting on them on a team where I've probably gone slim at running back. It's liquidate when you don't need.
You can still go slimmer and get more production. Give me Devin Singletary in the first for Ramondre.
Liquidate when you don't need.
That would be nice for sure. Okay, let's go to, and we're getting close-ish to the end here. Super chats have been turned off for a while now, so let's see here. Let's go to Bob Piers. Do we have a question from Bob? I don't see it starred. Bob, if we oh man, I see a question from one name that I'm not going to be able to stop laughing when I read it. Bob, if you have a question, try to post it in the comments so we can get back to it. I won't unstar it. Okay. Darth Dookie has a question. Thank you for the super chat. It's a 10-team start 8, 1 QB, PPR, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, have ETN and Akers. Would you trade Akers straight up for a random 25 first? Trades in 5 plus Mason. Let's effing go. Made my week. Thank you, man.
Yep.
Is there anyone that's voting against this
first,
trade?
Please? Mason? Bye Akers for a 25 first.
I'm extremely surprised you're able to get this.
Yep.
Yeah. He gone. I feel like, well, thank you for the super chat. That was a pretty easy answer for us. Yeah, thank you, Darth Dookie. He's the bad. He'll be back.
It's trades like that like I see them come across my timeline and I know I can't do it, but then I send out the offer anyway. I'm like, I've seen it happen, so I'm just going to do it, and I'm going to try to see if I could sell Cam Akers for a 25 first.
Well, Mason's great at this, and he's really articulated on this stream. In a league like that, you shouldn't even ask the question because you've already evaluated that Cam Akers is outside of a range that matters in a 10-team start 8. So take the flexibility. This is not the show you're going to ask the question for our player opinions on Cam Akers. It's going to be purely procedural that you would take the first and walk away because you have something flexible for something that doesn't matter.
Because the reason you want the first there is, like you're saying with the flexibility, one, it turns into a top 3 pick, top 4 pick, which actually moves the needle with your roster. Or with that flexibility, you parlay it with another guy and you can actually tier up at a position that matters.
Or if you needed a running back, you wait till the season. You pick of the 20 Cam Akers, which ones have threaded the needle and are actually producing, and you trade them first for that guy.
If we had more time, I would love to pull up my Scott Fish roster and show you guys, get your thoughts. My first Scott Fish ball.
Not this stream. Different stream.
I know. Okay, so Adam Cook, thank you for the super chat. Suggested moves, top heavy league. Probably not the winner yet. 10-team Dynasty PPR start 9. Herbert, Tua, Anthony Richardson, Levi's, Blue Jeans, Bijan, Ramondre, Swift, AJ Dillon, Khalil Herbert, Waddle, Garrett Wilson, London, Gabe, Wandale, Gallup, and some other people. Pitts, Chig. There's our first Chiggy of the night. Pitts, Chig, and I'm not going to try to read Chig Schooner of Conk. Look at that.
You did.
That's another orb. It's another orb thing that they're trying to get me on.
The Chig Schoon Irv Conk is an awesome
word. So what do we think he needs to do here? He's probably not a league winner. Should he do anything? We don't know anything about his future picks. It's 10-team start 9.
Let's move Bijan. Let's move Bijan.
No, it's so shallow. I'm just rolling with Justin Herbert, Bijan, Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle, Kyle Pitts, and taking my chances. Like, what you're getting cute in a start 9, 10 team moving off of Bijan. What could the deal look like where you're like, that's a smash except
Jahmyr Gibbs and a 24 first?
No. Nope.
Okay.
Quarterback. We got to go quarterback hunting if we're doing that. Like Bijan and it's only going to be for guys that no one's going to make the deal. Like I'll be like, sure, I'll give you Bijan for Deshaun Watson, and they're going to be like, no, you will not.
And looking at Mason's not even trading Bijan for most quarterbacks in this format. Like if Bijan hits, it matters a ton in here. Like this is not he says top heavy, probably not a league winner, but why are you not a league winner if the variance goes your way?
And he noted he has 224 first and all his other picks. All right, so then why aren't I trying to see what I mean, you have AR and Tua. Can I get Can I get greedy to an AR and I'll give someone a first and give me Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen? Like,
Sure.
let me see what I can do there.
For sure.
Can I upgrade from London, with a couple of the picks and upgrade at wide receiver? Sure, go for it.
Yeah,
And clean up all that extra stuff. The Terrace Marshall, Michael Gallup, Wandale Robinson, Luke Schoon. Like, literally liquidate all of that shit and just hope later you can move it all in a deal to something that matters.
Like spam for thirds and stuff.
Get rid of it. Get rid of a lot of that depth. Yep.
Liquidate. Okay, thank you for that super chat, Adam. So let's go to this one here from Ari. Thank you very much. It's a 12-team start 10. Give Hurts, get Cousins, Waddle, and ETN. I have no running backs. My other QB is Justin Herbert. My other wide receivers are London, Godwin, Ayuk, Pickens, J-Mo, and Quentin Johnston.
Well, the thing with this team is if you have no running backs, like the roster of top to bottom doesn't look like it's ready to win right now. So if we're not ready to win right now, where we're trading for Cousins, Waddle, ETN, who the hell knows what Cousins' value will be in 2024. So you could be looking back in offseason from now and just looking at the fact that you traded Jalen Hurts for a high-end wide receiver 2 and mid running back 2.
You trade Jalen Hurts, you still finish in 5th place, and then you wonder, why the hell did I trade Jalen Hurts in a year? So, no thanks. Just grind the running backs. Do what you can. Find cheap-ass ones and take a shot at it. But worst-case scenario, you still have Jalen Hurts and Justin Herbert next year.
Yeah, that's not enough of a return for a tier down from Hurts to Cousins. Yeah. Okay, let's hadn't done that yet. Let's go to Michael Roberts. Thank you for the super. We have a 12-team Superflex PPR start 10, 2 tight end premium, 2.0 for tight ends, and a 0.25 point per carry. Inbox offer. So in his inbox, let's help him out here. Tyreek Hill and Ramondre Stevenson for Jahmyr Gibbs and Terry McLaurin. Team is Tua, Watson, Kelsey, Hawk, Kupp, Devontae. What? Is somebody trying to get? Is somebody trying to get me? Are you giving me like a heads up here?
I'm laughing because this team literally must be on sleeper and traded every single pick through 2026.
Win now, team with no first through 2026.
It is win now for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, Terry, Pierce, Gibbs, Aaron Jones, Connor.
But why? No, I'm not saying. I don't even feel like getting in depth on this, but no, there's
no
reason.
0.25 point per carry, like Ramondre. I don't know. Go ahead. I gotta stop talking. Noah would be mad, but Noah can't even comment on our videos anymore because he's blocked. Go ahead.
Well, that's not cool. And
it is.
I would prefer not to trade Tyreek Hill and Ramondre Stevenson for Gibbs and Terry McLaurin.
Yep, clean 2 for 2. You're probably giving up the 2 best producers in this trade this year, so I'm good. Pass.
Yeah.
Win now. So you might as well go win now instead of downgrading your team. Can you get a 24 first thrown in and maybe a 25 first, one or the other, and then maybe we'll think about it since you don't have any picks.
Michael doesn't like first though.
He's the New Jersey Nets. He's trading picks for 2032.
Right. Yeah, there's nothing funnier than trading away your future picks all the way to 2027 and then going, I need to trade for a rookie now. Oh, get rid of Tyreek.
Yeah, right. Okay, thank you, Michael. So let's Nipple F-bomb 69. Thank you for the super chat. Says who day. So
yes,
who
sir.
day we decided is the Bengals.
Go Saints.
Is the Saints.
Because the Bengals stole that from the Saints.
They didn't. Go back and do some research, Shane. Who day is the Bengals?
I don't want to. I'm just going to annoy Bengals fans and say they stole that from the Saints because they're not cool like the Saints fans.
Yeah, there was some specific person that Scott mentioned as to the history of it. Had something to back it up.
Icky Woods. Icky.
There we go. I was trying to think of it, and I was like, Clay, just quit while you're behind here.
Hey, guys, real quick. I'm sorry. I told my girlfriend this would only take 2 hours. I haven't seen her in a while, so.
Dude, go for it, man. We appreciate the time you gave us,
very
man.
Much.
Yeah, no. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me, and have a great night, guys. Really appreciate y'all.
Later, Jason. I'll see you, dude. Okay, let's go here. So, Brian S., thank you for the super chat. 10 teams, start 10, PPR, 1 QB. Herbert, Love, Pollard, Henry, Monty. Garrett Wilson, DK, Higgins, AJ Brown, Devontae, Addison, Kittle. Have 224 first, projected top 4. hold or go for running back? CMC, Eckler?
10 teams start 10. Herbert, Law, Pollard.
1 QB.
It's only 1 QB. I mean,
if you can trade one first for Eckler, I'd be fine with it. Take the worst and try it, but I'm not giving up both for one of those guys. No thanks.
So Eckler over CMC for you, Scott?
Eckler's more likely.
Eckler's most likely to
for first. Yeah.
Yeah. If I can move him for the 105 next year, then fine, I could do it. I don't think it's an emergency that you got to make this deal, though. You have good running backs already. Doesn't really make sense to do it right now. So I'd hold those picks. Wait till they kind of expose themselves a little bit.
All right, Michael. We got to go back to Michael's question because apparently we've completely jacked it up. He'd be getting Tyreek and Ramondre.
We didn't jack it up. He literally can just take the answer and reverse it.
Yes, get Tyreek and Ramondre, and we apologize then.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. I'll hide that one. Okay. Let's go to Justin McLaws. New to Dynasty. Well, welcome. It's an aggressive disease. New to Dynasty and didn't see you before my draft. 24 and 25 firsts away. How would you recommend to fix my clearly now egregious mess up? Well, we don't know if it was egregious because we don't know what you got with those firsts.
We don't like it because you have no first, but Justin, so this is your new to Dynasty, and this is one of the lessons. Give us as much context as you can. Like, let us know what your roster looks like. Do you have pieces that are like Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill that we would go, all right, trade them off right now? Or do you have like young, is it Garrett Wilson? Is it Chris Olave? AJ Brown is your wide receiver room, and your quarterback room is Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts, because then we'd be like, all right, whatever. You can get 24s and 25s later if this doesn't work.
Well, I'll just say, because in our last listener league, I traded away both of my 24 and 25 firsts, if you remember. But I had a very strategic plan, and I actually think I built a pretty monstrous roster that has a ton of flexibility. So you can do it, but I think the problem that we've really made this theme throughout this show has been when you make moves like that, you trade away your flexibility. You have to either be able to just eat the loss when you're wrong because you don't have the ability to hedge or bail yourself out by using picks. But if you have bad roster construction and you did this and now you're looking for a way to get out of it and your first thought is trade away players for picks, that's where you're like, man, now I have to literally just do a full reboot. Mm-hmm. So there's a time and place to do it. There are some rooms in some leagues where it makes sense to do it for the right deals. But just off the rip going, I'm going to trade all three of my future firsts just to build a team in a startup that looks great in a start 10.
Right.
That's where you just get into extreme, because you're literally trading away the fact that you think you're going to be right more than 50, 60% of the time. And even the best people aren't right, usually more than that.
Yeah, and maybe it's not like a drastic move. You're trying to do these things to immediately get those picks back and make yourself feel better, right? It's try to be measured. If you want to fix what you think you broke, be measured and smart with it. Don't be emotional.
Take a week away from the team.
Yeah,
come back and look at it and see if it's really as bad as you remember.
Okay, so Matthew, thank you for the super chat. It's a 10-team start 11 Superflex 2.0 tight end premium. Give Justin Jefferson, get Anthony Richardson 24 first, and 225 first. Have Dak, Lamar, Cousins, Jefferson, AJ Brown, Waddle, Lamb, Addison, good Lord, Hopkins, Waller, Etienne, Ramondre.
I'd say the value is right. I don't know if I could actually bring myself to do it.
I'm okay with my QB room there, but look at all those firsts. I don't know.
I'll just say this. We've gotten really good information from Mason on 10-teamers and how they may differ.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of changed how I look at it a little bit. And it's not so much, I think the roster construction doesn't change a lot, but I do think the market and the behavior of the people in the league change a lot. So if you're getting Anthony Richardson in 3 firsts, and there's going to be an opportunity where you can turn around and trade for Garrett Wilson for 2 of those firsts, I'm fine with it. But if you go, there's a reason I can get this trade, and it's because the entire league thinks picks suck, and now I'm going to eat all of these picks, and they're just going to sit there and accumulate on my team, and I'm always going to be looking in the next 2 years for a deal that looks like, I don't know, something like the one I'm trading away here,
right?
Then don't do it. You have to know that about your league. This league that I'm in versus the one Shane's in versus the one this person asking the question is in is all different. Sometimes if the league goes, man, it's too good to be true because everybody in the league values things a certain way, they're kind of sticking you with that value that's just going to be stuck on your team. So you have to know that before you do a deal like this, because most people are going to go, oh man, 4 firsts and one of them being Anthony Richardson and 3 more firsts for one player. Like, I'm doing that until the context comes in.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. League economy is massive on that one. Okay, so let's go to Do here. Thank you for the super chat, Do. He said, fellas, I tune in weekly and wanted to be a blessing. Appreciate the content from you all. Flocking hammers. I love it, man. Flocking hammers is actually pretty that's pretty funny. Thank you very much for the super chat, man. Appreciate that.
It just makes me think of like pigeons flying by with like hammers attached to their talons. Like, that's a scary, scary sight for a city boy.
I don't know why Shane Clay didn't take I guess you would call it a goose with a hammer for the tonight's logo and stick it up there.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I could have gotten fancy with the overlays and whatnot and thumbnails. I ran out of time. So let's go to Charlie, the professor himself. Let's see how his English is tonight. Rate the trade, and thank you, Charlie. Rate the trade. 12-team start 11 Superflex. Give Flowers, Quentin Johnson, 24 second. Get Will Levis, Roshan Johnson, Hyatt, Mims, 24 third, 26 first and second. The startup got AR-15 and 8 firsts now.
Yeah, sure. This is one of the trades that Charlie's made that I like. I like Flowers and I like QJ, but look, you got a quarterback in a Superflex league. You got Mims, Hyatt, Roshan. They could easily match the production or value you get out of Flowers and QJ. And hey, you got a 26 first that's going to matter in a year and a half.
Yep, give me Zay Flowers, Quentin Johnson, and the 24 second. Charlie just got a lot of stuff. He's accumulating a lot of stuff in this league, but it's only going to be as good as what he can do with that stuff later. And unfortunately, it's a league with a lot of people that listen to this show, apparently.
That sounds like that was shots fired at Charlie.
This screams Hammer League, doesn't
it's not a shot at
26 picks.
It is. It's not a shot at Charlie. It is. I just watched what Charlie did with his team, and I'm struggling to see the plan. He went all in on rookie receivers.
And now he's trading
them away for picks that are way far out, and he's getting back players that, I mean, literally, if he can sit here and tell me he's doing this from a process standpoint because he likes the assets he's getting because he knows there's going to be a strong market for them, fine. I think this is just trading to trade. And it might be just because he didn't like how he started the auction, and now he's trying to find more creative ways out of it. I put it this way: if I had a team that had any semblance of trying to win in the next year or two, I'd be happy to give up all that stuff.
But he doesn't. Yeah, no, Charlie is definitely building towards, and no shot at Charlie, like 2026. Like when I saw this trade, it came across the timeline.
That's why he wants a 26 first and second.
In the league chat, I legitimately said, and I didn't mean it as a dick way at all. I said, Charlie, when are you planning to compete? Because like every move he's made looks like 25 as the soonest he could start really making moves, which is fine if that's what you want to do. It's just it's a lot.
Yep. Let's go to John Jacob here. He just wanted to drop in and say thanks for the review, the roster review. Turn the team around. I was the interesting World Cup format and one wide receiver. I don't know if you guys mentioned that. Yeah. They do a ton of reviews. Got team turned around down to Pollard and Algier left at running back. The rest are wide receivers plus. So it sounds like he listened to you guys. And yeah, if you want information on roster reviews, so send a message to roster review at dynastytradesand5.com. It's a nice tight system now with T. Sandiford, who's working with Scott and Shane on having a nice machine there built to where things can get turned around and you're not ignored and not getting response because I'm too busy. So I was able to delegate it to a better team. So now email roster review at dynastytradesand5.com. We'll get back to you, and we have different options for the types of roster reviews you can get. So just hit us up. Okay, John Jacob. Let's go to Kyle here. Thank you for the super chat. 12 teams, start 10, Superflex PPR. Should I trade Christian Watson, JSN, a mid-24 first? And it could be as early as the 103. And Devon A-Chain for Jamar Chase. My team is pretty stacked and getting old. Wide receiver is my only weakness. Pull the trigger. So giving Christian Watson, JSN, and a first that could be as early as 103, and A-Chain for Jamar Chase.
I stopped at my team is already pretty stacked. And I'm just saying that because
you wouldn't give up that juice right now. There's no need if you're already stacked.
Correct, because this type of, I mean, you are paying full freight for Jamar. You're paying full freight for Jamar Chase here. So could you get burned? Could Christian Watson and JSN lose a little value as the season starts, and then you can't get this deal done? Maybe. It feels like this is oh my gosh, I cannot wait to see Jamar Chase on my team.
Well, so I mean, part of it is that. How many, and we've talked about this in the past, though, how many times does a player like Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, a player like that actually come available on the board? So
next year.
Shane,
this league, yeah.
Then why not go and try to get Chris Olave and not have to give up one of the extra pieces? And you make a bet. You make a bet when you already have a strong team. Don't go all in for one outcome.
Right.
You don't need to. Whether you have Jamar Chase or not. Maybe he takes you from the third best team to the best team. I at this point, I don't really care because third best team is fine. I'm going to be in the playoffs. I'm going to have a live shot to win. This is just not a deal I make in July. If Jamar Chase is putting up 22 points per game during the season and you can get this done, then okay. But right now, no reason to do this.
No, but that's also the other point of that, right? So Jamar Chase is on this other dude's lineup and he's scoring 23 points a week. All of a sudden, he's like, no, you can't get Jamar Chase.
Oh, but here's the counter to that. The guy ain't getting any more for Jamar Chase than this. I don't care if he's putting up 25 points per game. The person can go, yeah, I need 6 firsts. And everyone in the league goes, sorry, I don't have that.
And you're going to have everybody clamoring for that. Could be as early as 103, 24 first. My team is stacked. That pick is locked up.
That's the only thing that's the only thing that scares me about this trade. I could give a shit giving up Christian Watson, JSN, Devin A-Chain, and a 24 first. But the fact that he says it could be as early as the third, again, we've talked about, we don't know how great people are at projecting that, but that feels pretty convicted when you're throwing actual numbers out there as opposed to early.
Right.
I mean, that's just one where you dare the rest of the league to go, okay, Jamar Chase could smash and he's worth more. Who in the league can pay more than what I can pay? And if someone does, then they get him. They buy him for 4.5 first during the season. Cool.
Yep. Okay, let's go to Sean here. It's a 12-team, 1 QB start 8. Mahomes, Bijan, CMC, and a bunch of RB4s. Love it. Chase, Garrett Wilson, Olave, JSN, Tony, McBride, Michael Mayer. 3 early to mid 24 firsts. 25 and 26 picks are intact. Should I trade CMC for some depth or go all hammers? 12-team, 1 QB, start 8. Hammer.
Sean. It's a start 8. You have Patrick Mahomes, Bijan Robinson, Christian McCaffrey, Jamar Chase, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave.
All in.
Just ride with what you have.
No, you know what? Look, if you want to get fancy, can I trade CMC and JSN for Justin Jefferson? Plus.
CMC plus, you added the plus.
Or just Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
Just Justin Jefferson.
So Shane's going alternative, but the answer to should I trade CMC for depth is a no, right?
No, we literally never. I don't remember.
Stays healthy,
in my
he
life.
breaks fantasy again.
No.
Yeah. So hey, that's all we have in terms of the starred stuff. Still have 438 eyeballs in here. Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll have to call it a night. Hopefully everybody enjoyed having Mason on. It was very cool. Let's see. Are people paying league dues through 2026?
If they're trading at first, they better.
The answer is in the leagues that I commission, in our listener leagues, nobody is really probably tracking that shit.
Nobody's paying attention.
And that's the problem is when you're in a sleeper league and people are firing out 26 picks, that is a nightmare for the commissioner to set up 3 league safes, make sure everybody pays. Because I mean, as the commissioner, Clay, do you want to be the guy that gets on somebody and says, until you pay your $100, you cannot continue to set a lineup? Like, you don't want to be that guy, but
Clay, you need to do that in
Eh.
Hamilton because those picks are all over the place.
I can't even like think about. Yeah. I hate being commissioner. I'm the worst. I'm the worst commissioner. Anyway, so thank you so much for joining the 432 eyeballs. Hit that like on your way out if you wouldn't mind. But yeah, it was an awesome time, and we'll have more content for you soon. So keep an eye out, guys. You want to say good night to our people, our tribe, maybe some flockers.
I do want to tease a certain show that Shane and I used to do, maybe making its return here soon to Trades in 5. So anybody that tuned into that in the past, be on the lookout.
Yep. Quite the tease.
I know what that is.
I do
Yeah,
too.
you were on that show, Shane. We
that.
actually like did something with that show. Do you remember that?
Yeah. It was like 2 days ago, right? Pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, we're already like halfway through editing it. No, yeah.
I'll give it further.
Gil's got it. Gil's got it. Let's just throw it up there. Right?
I updated my Twitter bio the other day, and it does. There's definitely a what's the word I'm looking for? A tease in there. There you go. There's your words.
Got it. All right. Thank you, everyone. We will call it now. We'll hit end broadcast. We'll see you soon.